All right, we'll get started. Thank you. One point to note, Councilor Valentin will not be here tonight. She did contact me. She is in D.C. representing the Boys and Girls Club as one of their members. Girls Inc., I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction.
I was going to say, I'm on the board. I didn't know
She's down there, and she does send her apologies for not making it, but this trip was scheduled, I think it was like 2 months ago, she said, so. She's not here. With that, the clerk will call the roll for the October 2nd, 2018 City Council meeting.
Anderson Burgos.
Here.
Bartley.
Here.
Bresnahan.
Here.
Leahy.
Present.
LeBron Martinez.
Here.
Lisi. McGee.
Here.
McGivern. Roman.
Here.
Sullivan. Tolman.
Here.
Bacon.
All rise for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
the city of Holyoke.
And the city council.
Before we get started, a few meetings ago, Councilor Bartley filed an order to give out a proclamation to the Valley Blue Sox. As we all know, they are back-to-back champions with the Collegiate Baseball League in the city of Holyoke. So, Councilor Bartley, please escort our guests in, and I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate the council president's warm introduction. On behalf of the council president and city clerk Brenna McGee Murphy, I'm going to read a proclamation. This was originally filed about a year ago by Councilor Jimmy Leahy after the first victory, but you know, I knew they were going to do it back to back, so I said, let's wait for this one. Proclamation reads and be resolved that the Holyoke City Council extends its congratulations to the Valley Blue Sox in recognition of being crowned New England Collegiate Baseball League champions for the second consecutive year. I'll make a brief introduction in a minute. I really want to thank former City Councilor Patricia Devine, because we were lucky this time, but not that we're not lucky over the other proclamations, but Patty used her cursive techniques on this proclamation, so it came out particularly nice for you, Valley Blue Sox. So Fred Wyant, everybody knows Woody. Hey. Everybody knows Woody. John, I didn't get your last name. John Riolan, thank you, John. And then the owner of the team, this is your second year, Fred? First year owner of the team, Fred Siaglo. And so I'm going to introduce the president of the Valley Blue Sox and present this, again, on behalf of the Holyoke City Council, Brenna Murphy McGee, and City Council President Todd McGee. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dave, and city councilors, much appreciated. There's a lot of hard work that goes into putting a team together. These guys did a great job. We're already working hard to go back to back to back and bring one home in 2019. But I'd just like to thank the city of Holyoke and our sponsors, our host families. There's a ton of people and a ton of work that goes into this, and I'm proud to be the president of it. And we'll bring another one home for you guys next year. Thank you.
And let's hear it for applause right here.
Congratulations. I mentioned Boys Club. Yes, thank you. Great job.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, Woodsy.
Right. Congratulations. All the best. Thank you. Yeah.
I like your name, Tucket Reds.
I'd like to suspend the rules and go out of order to item 37. 'cause there's people here.
Second.
All those in favor? All opposed? Item 37, that the city paint the thin blue line going from the police memorial north side of Appleton Street directly to the front door of the Hoyoke Police Department. See example, I do believe people did get an attachment of that.
Can I be added to that?
We can add Counselor Leahy. The motion would be to receive and adopt and approve it tonight.
So moved.
Seconded. I know there's some police officers here who asked that they could speak if they wanted to speak. It was kind of unclear. You're good? I'll be, let's gather some stuff here.
What number?
Is it 37?
Yeah, 37.
I'll be quick. I filed this order because I received a letter in the mail from a gentleman, I'll say his name in a minute, asking that I really consider this because if you go back in history from when I started my career here at the City Council, there was a certain family on my street, 2 houses down, who were the first to sign my nomination papers and the first to put up a lawn sign. So it was a great family. It's been a family that everyone knows because one of the members was a police officer and then served on this council, and that was Counselor Higgins. Awesome gentleman, awesome family. And it was Mike Higgins who sent me the letter. And the reason I bring it up is when I first took over here, we all know Kevin used to carry the gavel pretty strong. He actually took it with him. So there was nothing left, and Ryan ran around and actually found this. And I never said it to you guys and girls. Mass Police Association, this is what Ryan handed me. Mass Police Association, 1985, President, Patrick Higgins. So the Higgins family is always around. They're asking that we please consider this in order to honor our men and women of the police department. And it's something that they would really like to see. So I filed it on their behalf. Councilor President would like to sign on. Councilor Leahy.
I'd like to sign on too.
Councilor Tallman.
You can add it all, Tom.
Add everyone? Any comments? No comments? All those in favor?
Aye. I have a question. We have officers here that could speak.
I asked, one shook his head and put his head down. Captain Moriarty, if you'd like to suspend the rules, I'll Captain
Anybody
Moriarty
with
speak.
him, he'll go on forever.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Captain Moriarty.
Evening, everyone. How are you?
Thanks for being available to answer questions, Captain Moriarty. Do you mind just explaining what the thin blue line stands for?
It's a representation of the law enforcement world, including corrections, policing, all sexes, and it's the thin blue line, basically. You've seen it in flags. One of our officers actually has a Corvette that he dedicated to it. It's the Thin Blue Line Corvette. And he goes to as many car shows as possible, and the car is filled with patches, and he has a sign with it, and it's all the officers in Massachusetts that have been killed in the line of duty. He actually just helped escort the Ride to Remember from Springfield to Boston, and it's a representation of the sacrifice that men and women have made and are making, and sad to say, will continue that these sacrifices will be made, and it's just a representation of that.
Thank you.
No problem.
Councilor?
Not on that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead.
Anyone else for Captain Moriarty? Captain Moriarty, thank you for coming down.
Oh, thank you
Motion-
for taking it up. Thank you.
Motion is to receive and approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's approved. Back to the agenda. Item number 1, which was laid on the table. Committee on Finance was referred an application. This is the taxi one. We still haven't received any information on that. I guess we'll just leave it on the table.
Make a motion to take number 2 off the table.
Second.
Motion is to take item number 2 that was laid on take. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the council adopt an ordinance requiring city council approval of any license agreement to use as city-owned real property. Terms of such agreement exceed 30 days. Recommended that it be adopted.
Mr. President, I'd like to offer a motion. We've already taken it off the table. I'd like to refer it to legal to update in the legal form the previously approved ordinance from 2016 and return to the next city council meeting.
Second.
So motion was to receive, refer to legal to update with regards to the 2016, right?
Yeah, in the legal form
Yeah.
to the previously approved ordinance from 2016. It needs to be referred to legal to
Yeah.
update the legal form.
So motion is to receive it and refer to legal for an update.
And then please return to the next city council meeting.
Would you like to return it to ordinance for review and no, or just come back out? Okay, so then refer it back out to the full council. So motion is to receive, refer to legal, to update it to be in compliance with the 2016 change, which we all agree was either, you can call it a Scribner error or bad typing, and correct it to then bring it back out to the full council.
You should have,
Motion would be to allow legal to speak.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Second.
All opposed?
I prepared the legal language and sent it over. There should be an update which puts it in the appropriate location with the updated Division 3 that was done to allow this to go back in where it needs to be.
Is that
So do we, I'm sorry,
right, Counselor? Go ahead, Counselor.
did I miss it on the table?
It might be, but I know the legal form was done and submitted, so, I mean, I can certainly send it back, but I remember doing it.
I
Well,
hear-
just, motion is to receive, refer to legal. If they have it, it'll be an easy
Right.
pass back over to then vote on it next council meeting.
Right.
All right, yep. Let's come back to legal. That's why I asked to go to ordinance. Because you got to take it off the table to act on it, which is what we're
So it'll
doing.
have to come back through ordinance?
Yeah.
Tabled.
Okay, so-
Okay,
so-
I will amend my motion to keep the language of my motion the same, but to send the copy to legal and keep it on the table.
Second.
All right, so motion is to amend it to allow it to stay on the table, waiting for the legal department to update the form.
Just so that we are sure we have it before us.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Next is public comment. We do have, looks like 13, 14 people.
Motion to suspend our rules and allow the 13 to speak, but.
Limited time.
But the president limit the time to 60 seconds.
Second?
Well, hold on. So pursuant to Rule 64, public comment allows 10 speakers to speak with a minute and a half, so 90 seconds. We could suspend the rules to allow all 13 to speak, to give them the full minute and a half.
Well, I made my motion that,
I'm just letting
same
everyone know
minute.
what the rule is, because it got confusing last time. The form only had 7 last time, but it really is 10 people.
all right, so let me just rephrase it. My motion is to suspend our rules, allow all 13 to speak between 60 and 90 seconds. If the president would just watch the clock on that, I'd appreciate it.
Second.
All right, so motion to suspend the rule, everyone to speak. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? First is Helene Florio from 31 Wesleyan Road. And I will get the clock.
Turn it on.
Is it on?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
As Mr. McGee just said, my name is Helene Florio, and I live at 31 Wellesley Road. Tonight is a pivotal point here in Holyoke. You have in front of you a vote to make a change, a zone change, on the Lynch property. Without this zone change, the sale of Lynch to the Colvest Group cannot be executed. After many years of hard work by this city, we have gotten to the time of this vote. Everyone knows that the city has accepted what it considered the best response to its RFP, the 4th RFP on this parcel of land. Each of you approved the purchase and sale agreement in order to have this get to this point. We have the Colvest Group here tonight. They are a reputable developer with over 30 projects completed in this general area. If the Colvest offer is derailed At this late hour, the message to the business community would be clear. Holyoke is not open for business. This message would come at a time when the city most needs additional tax revenues for long overdue infrastructure projects, new schools, and the expanding needs of city government. The opponents had a chance to make their bid. They could have won with a bid price
We're
with
at
their
a minute
solution.
In 30 seconds.
Please stay engaged, and please vote for this evening.
Thank you. Next is 179 Morgan Street, Sue, and the name, Barolette, I just don't want to butcher it.
Barolette.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I give my time to someone else?
No, we can't add on time. It's a minute and a half for the speaking. Thank you.
Over the past 2 months, we, the Preserve Lynch
Can you
Group.
speak into the mic, ma'am?
Oh, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. No worries.
Can my time start over?
Yeah, go ahead.
And you're done.
Okay, let me just get to the end. Okay, over the past 2 months, we, the Preserve Lynch Group, have watched with bewilderment as the Colvest project has made its way through the Planning Board and the Ordinance Committee. We have often heard the refrain, the building has been empty for 10 years, and we just need to move forward with whatever deal we get. I'd like to address that argument. Let me move to the end of it. Just to say that we are not an anti-development group. We do reject this deal because we believe it is not a good deal. We can do better. We all agree, everyone here, that Holyoke deserves better. $250,000 for the city, a landmark destroyed, another strip mall at an important gateway location, unmanageable traffic. Please hit pause on this deal. We can and we will do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Richard Ahlstrom from 215 West Madison.
Hi, I'm Rich Ahlstrom, 215 West Madison. I'm also the chair of the Historical Commission. I am speaking tonight in asking you to vote against the zoning change. I'm not opposed to development. I'm not opposed to doing a full study of the area and what has to happen with this section of the city. Hang on a second. So I think the Lynch School is a important part of the community. It's the two neighborhoods, north and south, are quite an important section that should be thoroughly thought through. Colvest is a developer. The planning department is looking for a project. They wanted to move forward on a project. Colvest is there. Colvest is the developer that is, I think, not the best choice for the area. I think we need to back up. I think it's upside down, the process that we're looking at, and I think that's what most of the people that are opposed to this zone change are opposed to, that it's a zone change to have this project move forward. And what we really need to do is back up and do a thorough study of the area. There has been no planning study, no community involvement, no input from mass development, and no current assessment of who we are as a city.
Minute 30, just a heads up.
Okay, thank you. So I'm asking you just to pump the brakes on this. We have an opportunity to really look at how to revitalize this whole area and work with a developer and a project that is well thought out. So I ask you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is 25 Morgan Street, Paula Ferraro.
Good evening, councilors. I'm here, and I'm going to take on from where Richard Armstrong left. I'm here to talk about the data. I'm I'm on my third career, just recently a new real estate agent. And this morning, I pull up the data for how many houses have been sold in Holyoke in the past 6 months. 167 houses have been sold from April 1st to September 29. The amount of money is about between 38 and 40 million. You cannot trust me when I add up, so I don't have a precise number. But Holyoke is, and I'm sorry, it's a very simple term, is hot right now. The people that we're getting now are people who have been priced out from Amherst, from Northampton, and from East Hampton. People who could afford those communities, but are coming here because we have varied population, because our architecture is superior, because of the nature, because of the water, because of Holyoke Gas and Electric. So we are, right now, there's a buzz, we are the great city. Now, if you look, it's huge business for us real estate agents in town and for the property value that's gone up. What I looked at is the value of houses that were purchased.
A minute 30, just to give you a
30
heads up.
seconds. Well, I want to say that Lynch is really our economic incubator. And because this nice is really important to me, I took out of the safe my mother's bracelet. It was her most favorite bracelet, okay? If this is Lynch. It's 24 karat gold, it's Venetian, it's hand-painted, and the eyes of the tigers are ruby. I could go to a pawn shop and sell it to melt it for gold. I could find somebody who really appreciates it, an antique dealer, sell it, and buy myself something really nice for a long time. Or I could pass it on to my godson and say, I'm sorry, it's hard to keep it together. This is who we are. And this was my mother, taught you about beauty, taught you about courage. And this is Lynch. Are we going to the pawn shop? Are we going to the pawn shop? Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is 158 Morgan Street, Arnold Jaffe.
There have been a number of hearings before various boards and committees regarding the rezoning of the John J. Lynch School. At these hearings, evidence has been largely shoved aside, if it was factual evidence, and supplanted by sentiment and a lot of grandiose arguments and firsthand documentation. During this phase of argument, a small group of residents and a small group of business advocates squared off to present their cases. The one group that has not been called upon is a residential community that will be most affected by this change. Over recent weeks, I personally have walked miles of the streets of Ward 6 and 7. I was gathering signatures on petitions and trying to learn about the responses and concerns of my fellow citizens. Aside from 4 people who were afraid of the consequences of signing the petition and 2 who hated the building, everyone else had 3 strong opinions. Almost universally, the residents I met were adamant that they wanted the building repurposed and reused. Suggestions favored apartments, but also included a recreational center for the city's youth, which they don't have, and a performance center for theater and music, which we really don't have either. The other, even more adamantly held opinion was that the Northampton Street...
Arnold, minute 30, just letting you heads up.
Okay, 3 sentences left.
Yep.
The other, even more adamantly held opinion was that the Northampton Street corridor is already dangerous and at certain times of day cumbersome if not impassable. Everyone thought that the idea of adding more traffic was unwise. Finally, many people voiced consternation about adding more brick and mortar to a street that is plagued by vacancies, some of them for many years. I urge you to follow the wishes of your constituents and vote against the zoning change.
Next is Megan McGrath Smith, 7 Wyckoff Ave.
Thank you. Not all development is equal, and not all development is good development. I've seen pictures of this state, of the building that Holyoke Catholic School was in before it was revitalized, and man, they're horrifying. And I look now around Veterans Park, and I think about how that building being revitalized into apartments has totally revitalized the look and the quality of that place. And I imagine instead that our runners on St. Patrick's Day and the road race amassed on a common lined by a Taco Bell, a Wendy's, and a pipe store. And I don't see that it would give me the same sense of civic pride. 11 years ago, I moved to Holyoke, and I moved here because it stood for something. It had a sense of itself, a character, and a history. 6 years ago, my family bought our house on Wyckoff Avenue. And it's an important decision to buy a house, to choose to settle in a community. And Holyoke is where we have chosen to raise our family. I don't have any desire to see Northampton Street become more and more built up like Riverdale Road or Route 9. I want us to preserve the character and the history of our city so we can pass it on to our children. Our historic buildings are a part of that legacy. And rather than move this building forward for demolition as a strip mall, I ask you to consider rethinking how this building could be used or remarketed appropriately. The RPF was not well written. It was too specific, and we really need to look back at it. It says it could only be open for a developer, for an attraction, for cars coming off the highway. It never said anything to anyone about it being used for residential or any other use. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is 179 Len Brolette. 158 Morgan Street, Diane, can't read the last name. Thurston. Thank you.
Well, I thought I would have more time, but I'll try to be as brief as I can. I came here to ask you to vote in opposition to the zone change. My choice to purchase a home in Holyoke 2 years ago was very strongly influenced by the wonderful historic architecture, beautiful and friendly neighborhoods, and the impressive restoration and repurposing of older buildings in the vicinity of the canals. I was pleased by what I saw as Holyoke's vision for a 21st century city that makes splendid use of its industrial, commercial, and residential architectural heritage to emphasize its unique character and pleasant, walkable neighborhoods. I was deeply disturbed to learn that the Lynch School, which is a fine example of mid-century modern architecture, was slated for demolition to make way for a generic strip mall and bank following a proposed change of zoning. I've been talking with people all over the city about this, and I just would like to reiterate what a lot of people have said. People are moving here in huge numbers because of the residential neighborhoods. They love it here. It's a wonderful, happy place to live. However, creating a Route 5 and the other roads around there into something that we have on King Street in Northampton, Memorial Drive in Chicopee, will drive people like me away. I had no idea that that was the plan for this area. I looked at downtown, I saw that, and I thought, this is absolutely a place I must be. And I'm just terribly disappointed. Please do not change this zoning to allow a change that is untenable.
Thank you. Looks like Holy Family Road and Sheely? Oh, Glenn.
Need to get some new glasses, Todd.
No, I'm going to stop right there. Anyways.
Glenn Sheely, 48 Holy Family Road. I've been in Holyoke now for 10 years as a developer working in the flats, and I believe this is the first case I've ever written all city councilors to urge them to pass the zoning change. Nothing can be done to this property without a zoning change, whether it's a performance center or a bank or a strip mall or whatever. I wish the preservation group, with many bright and intelligent people, had come together earlier to answer the RFP or to request the economic development to change the wording. but they didn't. And I think the city has to respect the process of the RFP. Tonight, you just asked to address the zoning change. The whole plan has to still go before site plan review. And I would like to commend the opponents who have spoken so eloquently on this, but my fear is that their wish for a change is going to lead to another vacant property for years and years. I've spoken to several of them. I've asked them what their proposal really is and how they're going to fund it. And I don't see the funding. I don't see a unanimous thought on how they're going to proceed. But as a group, I hope they stick together and pick other buildings in the city and move on to restore other properties with the vision that they have, because I think they have a lot of energy. I just don't see this school ever being developed in the foreseeable future if
Minute
no
30. go
zoning
ahead.
change happens. And I would appreciate your support on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is looks like an Alexander, but no address.
I live at 15 O'Connor Ave, and my name is Jamila Ali Alexander. I'm very concerned. Thank you for letting me speak. Primarily, I would only be in favor of the zone change for the school building if the purchase and sale could be revised to my condition. I'm in favor of the Colvest purchasing it, but with the condition that they agree in advance to abate and preserve the school for the following important reasons. Number one, it's in Colvest's financial interest to rehab the building when the estimate of demolishing it and building another strip mall will cost $7 to $8 million, and the cost of abatement and rehabbing it is $3 to $4 million. Why would Colvest want to spend an extra $3 to $4 million, especially when the market is unreliable right now for big investments? And so many community members are against its demolition. Number two, the school building is a gem. It has character and class. A strip mall is so ho-hum. What is more boring than another failing strip mall in Holyoke? 3, as many folks know, I dream of a rehab building for an indoor mall with retail, drop-in centers, food co-op, small theater in the auditorium, and a food court in the cafeteria. But I don't care so much what goes in there as I do to preserving the building and prevent its demolition. Since Colvest is making this investment, let's save them money and have something that we have a precedent for already in Holyoke, a willingness to look at our architecture as the treasure it is, respect it and preserve it when we rehab, not destroy and regret. For instance, the job that's
minute
done
30, just a heads up.
on the library building and Lyman Terrace. I did actually speak to the president of Colvest, and his response to my idea was it's not handicapped accessible. I'm like, really? I mean, look at our library. We did a beautiful job with that and made it handicap accessible. I don't think it's that big. It could be so nice. We would be destroying a gem. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Michael Moriarty, 1 Lexington Ave.
Good evening, everyone. I felt somewhat duty-bound to take interest in this process as it continues, since I sort of started the problem by being the advocate for releasing the Lynch School from the school department 10 years ago. As you all know, if you go from Hampden Street really to the St. Jerome's Church, you are on a business highway, except for this lot. One of the reasons it has been so vexing and difficult to bring this property to its next destination is it is not appropriately zoned. So tonight is your opportunity to correct that and finally zone this property business as it probably should have been from the first instance. It will not have a destination as a school again. There's no feasible use for that. I don't think there is an agreed upon destination for a reuse of this building, even among its advocates. I do know this. The city is extremely burdened financially. You don't have the funding that you would like to provide to the police department or the fire department or the school department or the DPW. You have properties that need a lot of work in the form of the War Memorial, in the form of the City Hall Annex. Those are in their own right historic properties. Focus on what you've got, move on from what you can't work with. My fear is that if the council doesn't approve this change, it's going to do affirmative harm to this city. I don't think anyone on this council has ever taken a vote where you intend to do harm, but simply envision where we're going to be 10 years ago. If this isn't zoned business, if the development can't move forward in this business zone, the city cannot grow. The city needs the growth. All of the city
Minute 30.
Needs to have the revenue resource of a growing city. The message tonight, if you vote no, is that this is a city not poised for growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Last on the list, St. Kobe Drive, Norma Casellas. No? That will end the list for public comment.
President,
President.
do you want to go out of order and just take it up now?
Second?
Sorry, here's my motion.
Second, third.
All right, so where are we going, councilors?
17D, suspend, let's go to 17D.
Motion to suspend the rules, go out of order, and take up 17D. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 17D, the Committee on Ordinances referred a zone change application for 1575 Northampton Street. Recommended that the zone change be approved.
Thank you,
Counselor.
Mr. President. So,
Motion would be
I'm making a
to-
motion to pass the first reading.
Second.
Motion is to receive and pass the first reading. Under discussion, Counselor Bacon.
So the committee held a number of public hearings on this. The planning board held its own public hearings. There has been very robust discussion, debate, sharing of information and opinions and perspectives. This has been, as all zone changes that are near residential areas, a very sensitive topic. And it has also been one with a lot of history attached to it for people as well. So I do think that the committee heard all of the testimony. I do believe the members of the committee did their work in terms of reviewing the correspondence that we received, various communications that people have sent via email and phone calls. And so I think it is with careful consideration that the committee has put this to the council unanimously for its consideration tonight to pass. Personally, I have remained fairly quiet during the hearing process because I really wanted to hear both sides. I wanted to make sure I was listening carefully to facts, information, arguments relative to both the merits of the zone change and in particular the interest to the city as a whole. These are always touchy situations. So for myself, I would just share that I came to yes for not only two reasons, but after sorting through all of the testimony and facts, these are a couple of the main reasons. One is that the zone change for the school was one essentially of eminent domain. And the properties around the school are business properties. The school is not next to the residential. It's on the business highway side of other properties that are already zoned business. So I see it as bringing it into concert with the actual area at hand. Secondarily, I have relied on colleagues who have more experience than I do in terms of developers and who are good developers who will look out for the good of our community. And I am persuaded by those with more experience than I that it does meet that test. So I'm sure others have their own reasons for voting for it, and I'm happy to close my remarks in that regard. Thank you.
Anyone else with regards to this? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I really appreciate all the public speaking tonight. I'm just going to recap a couple things that I heard and just give you my impression. Well, first of all, I favor this. I favor this because zoning, as we know, is not for project specific. It's the area is BH. This is going to put it in line with the rest of the BH zone. The comments tonight I heard among many, and they were all very, very interesting. I took a lot of notes. People involved for 2 months on this. I've been involved with this, Mr. President, for 6 years. 6 years of public hearings in this room, dozens and dozens of hours. I voted no on all prior ones, all prior zone changes and all prior lease agreements. I was a no vote straight through until now. The process itself. Speaking about Colvest, one comment was not the best choice. Mr. President, I can't see the future. I don't know the best choice, but I do know from my due diligence and learning what I saw before me from the advocate, before this body, in committee that I chaired, in the committee that I vice chaired, the advocate is a first-class developer. And looking at projects that the advocate's done in other communities, nothing but positive comments. I haven't had one negative comment, including a call I got about an hour ago from a former chief executive officer of a neighboring city. So the public should know, Mr. President, we're not taking this lightly. Again, I voted no for all of our prior to this. This is the first one I voted yes on. I heard from another person who's in the business talking about the value that I get. So, I mean, it's almost a question of, is it 250,000? Well, we're not here to time the market. I don't know what the values would have been in 2008 when the market tanked. The market's now in the upswing, but we put the RFP out over a year ago. This was a bid. It wasn't even the high bid. And the bid, by the way, is not approved by this body. It's approved by the mayor's office and in consultation with the group that the mayor and put together. And Office of Planning and Economic Development. So they presented this to us. That's the mayor's office presented this developer to us. So some of the other comments, I'm really encouraged by hearing that the new people come into town, new relative to, well, me anyhow, and I'm really encouraged by what they say and the passion and enthusiasm they have for the city of Holyoke. I'll finish this way, Mr. President. I feel like this developer has that same passion and enthusiasm for the city of Holyoke that these relatively new residential residents have for this city. If we didn't hear the remarkable comments that the developer presented when I chaired Development and Governmental Relations Committee through 3 public hearings, when I vice chaired the Ordinance Committee through multiple other public hearings, when I went to the public hearings and Planning Board. So there's been double-digit public hearings on this from the city of Holyoke. And there are more to go, by the way, because there's site plan review to come. So I think it's just a question mark, Mr. President, that the city is, I mean, for me anyhow, I'm very comfortable with this zone change to BH. I'm very comfortable with this developer, and I'm hopeful that we can move forward tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yep, thank you. I want to address this because there's been a lot of comments and misrepresentations. I'm a Massachusetts state licensed asbestos inspector. That building is loaded. Various presentations have been made to us that could be used for residential, for people with disabilities, for the elderly. Just the fact that the walls are loaded with it, and hearing from a real estate developer also, who in their right mind would go in and invest in a condo or put an elderly person or a disabled person into a place known to contain asbestos? That's insanity. As far as an arts venue, other uses for it, come on. We've been trying to get the Victory Theater off the ground. That's finally getting going. We're going to put something in competition with it. I want to echo Councilor Bartley's sentiments. Colvest has a great reputation. I've heard a lot of stuff about the vacant Rite Aid building. Rite Aid has a 2-year, Rite Aid was bought by Walgreens. They have a 2-year lease on that building. It's their choice to keep that building empty, not Colvest. you have a lease with somebody, they can do what they want. Their hands are tied until that lease expires.
Councilor Roman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to my colleagues, and I want to thank specifically those who reached out from the preservation side, and including in my own ward. We had a lot of debate with it last month at our neighborhood association meeting. I spoken to a couple business owners, so including Maria Ferrer from MD Beauty was like, Nelson, I don't want another strip mall. I want to thank Glenn Sullivan for reaching out personally, Paula, who's a friend who I respect, and I know we're on opposite sides of this, but I respect and love you and thank you. And Jamila for coming to my office and meeting with me for 2 hours. And I've read that whole asbestos pamphlet you gave me, and I know we're on the opposite side of this, but I do respect all of you for really sitting down. And I hear the environmental concerns, and I want to acknowledge that from the city perspective, I hear what you all are saying, and I do want to, because again, you all asked me for some tangibles. Things have been a little bit crazy in my life, but I did want to cite specifically what school report I was referring to, and so my colleagues know, when I say the school department said that this school is not usable, I didn't just make that up. So on the Holyoke Public Schools school facility survey, which was done and completed 11/29/2016, page 49 talks about Lynch School, and they explored and looked at all the Holyoke Public Schools. And page 50 is where you go into the building conditions. So exterior envelope, condition poor, needs serious repairs and upgrades. Roof conditions, assumed poor. Mechanical systems, not visually acceptable, assumed poor. Systems abandoned in place for many years. Interior finishes poor. Where I will give the opponents who did state that yes, this report did say the building was structurally sound. However, those damaging conditions, and in our tour, the school department and the Massachusetts school department said that they wouldn't use this again at all for a school. So that was number one. Number two, I dug deeper. I did my homework, and I requested from the city the RFP, because I wanted to make sure when I'm hearing from the opponents that the city did a bad job, or if we didn't represent ourselves. You know me, I'm the first one to say we didn't do a good job. So under the city's RFP, which is dated November 29, 2017, page 2, section that says objectives. It is the objective of the city's desire to obtain proposals which include a commitment to improve the property, sublimative private investment, create employment opportunities for residents, and real estate taxes revenues to the city of Holyoke. The city seeks a use that will be a destination for out-of-town travelers, as well as an attraction to area residents. Ideally, the development would include commercial use that complements the area. Automotive and drugstores will not be considered by the city of Holyoke. And the reason why I say this is because I, like Councilor Bartley just stated, was one of those councilors who voted against the last developer. I think it was one of my first year or two on the council. We were considering that Florida-based company that wanted to come in and build the CVS. And I remember a lot of these same arguments, and I remember seeing the picture on Facebook at that point, like bring Whole Foods to Holyoke, and I was fine with whatever other development. I'm not sure that Whole Foods would have saved the building. However, I was all for not going forward with that development. And since that meeting, we had acknowledged that that Rite Aid Plaza across the street, which at that point and still today is owned by Colvest, we agreed it was in poor condition. I remember speaking in DGNR when we took up the purchase and sale, as Councilor Bartley stated, specifically asking Colvest 3 things. One is, what's going on with that lot and when are we going to renovate it? They specifically and illicitly stated, we have 2 tenants whose leases are going to expire in the next couple of years, and our plans are to redevelop that parcel. And so where I do agree with the opponents who have said, yeah, that parcel's not in the best shape, Colvest acknowledged that. And then the second thing was, yeah, that historic character, and Jamil and I were going back and forth, and I said, you should approach Colvest because we have agreed that, the spirit and the architectural beauty of Lynch should be there. And I remember Colvest shared the story about the Catholic Diocese selling them a property, they fixed it, and I know Paula had made mention of the fact that it's sitting idle. Colvest, I called after that and they said, listen, we're actively recruiting tenants. We can't tell you, but we'll probably have some leased tenants in that space, so it won't remain idle. So I don't always want to demean the proponent who's doing a great job at trying to fill their parcels and spaces and renovate spaces that they acknowledge themselves need some love. But the more important part for me on the city's proposal, which I would like to bring to my colleagues' attention on the RFP, page 7, section C. clearly states on the outside envelopes of the written bidders' names and the addresses and the bid numbers, the name and description of the project shall be listed and submitted. And it could say purchase of property for commercial and/or residential use, and either price proposals or technical proposals as the case may be. And so that's just one of the instances where I see that the city does allow the opportunity in clear writing to say you can submit either a commercial and/or residential proposal. So I think that that was clearly stated, and I just want to say, I don't think it's fair to say that the city did a poor job, because I read this document front to back. I think that there was ample opportunity, and again, in my rigorous debate with my friend Jamila, whom I respect, I said, listen, this would be, for me, a no vote if I had a residential developer today saying I'm willing to give the city more than $250,000 to redevelop this into the next housing space. I would say, okay, we have a developer here in front of us who's willing. But I've sat in this body now going on 3 years, moving into 4, and we went through this when we kicked away the other proponent trying to redevelop this parcel. And now this RFP, and yes, I hear where the opponents are saying, listen, this really hasn't been on the market for 10 years. But since I've been here 3 years, the Lynch property has been a hotbed issue, and it has been raised to the level of everyone in this community should know we're trying to find a developer for Lynch. And I think since we told the previous group from Florida we didn't want another pharmacy, that would have been the perfect opportunity for us to hear that. And in this RFP, that did not happen. And lastly, as an individual who came to this city also 12, 13 years ago, who came in a different way, homeless, on the street, strung out on drugs, HIV positive, had nothing better to do with my life, who came out of that, my first job after being homeless, believe it or not, before I worked in nonprofit sectors, was Zoomies at the Holyoke Mall. And people sometimes demonize the Holyoke Mall, who's one of the largest taxpayers in this city, who has a lot of retail spaces. But we're talking about a strip mall as if it's the evil of all perils. Or I've heard people in the past demonize minimum wage jobs. But when you're homeless, or when you're from South Holyoke, and the average annual income is $14,300, and you can get a minimum wage job that'll bump you up to $20,000 a year, I don't think we should be pitting one evil against the other. I hear that you want to save this building, but let's not demonize or throw away potential jobs that could change the lives of Holyoke residents. And yes, I agree, the building's structurally sound. If there was other developers here right now today, all the developments that came through, except for, yes, the charter school who proposed to put a school in there, were vetted by the city and not accepted. We as a body can only do the zone change, and I think that we should vote yes on this zone change tonight, and I hear and respect the opponents of this, but I think that this is both on multiple fronts. The city did its due diligence, we've done our due diligence, and I just think that coming from a community that where some might be celebrating all of the beauties of this new development, number one, I'm always concerned about gentrification, and I'll continue to say that till the day I jump off this council or back on and off. It is happening in Holyoke, and I applaud people wanting to move here from Amherst, Northampton, and everywhere else in the world, but we have to have development that's smart, that's mixed use, that has low to moderate income included with its high and market rate apartments and units. And if we can add one iota of jobs in this community, I don't care what the negative connotation of a strip mall is, that can hire people from our lower wards, from our marginalized and disenfranchised communities, then I think we ought to give that a try. And to help our tax base, like I said, me and Councilor Vacan, and I do applaud Councilor Vacan, we don't see eye to eye on a million things, but on the city's budget, her and I are in locked alignment that our budget is in peril. And it doesn't matter how many cannabis industries we approve today, how much tax revenue we're gonna see, we need to make up $2-point-something million of revenue in taxes to just be balanced a year. And yeah, I know the mayor's office is gonna call me tomorrow, the treasurer, don't say that. We balance out with the rainy day and reserve fund. I'm not a mathematician, but I know that our costs are going up every year. I know you're the finance guy. I know that you see that our costs for our retirement accounts are going up, that our costs for everyday services, our contractual obligations to our unions, trying to give individuals raises who deservedly need it. So if we can get some more tax revenue on this base, I can't say no to that. Because guess what? Without this tax revenue, without a balanced budget, it's the lower wards who don't get their sidewalks paved a lot of times, and that happens everywhere. But a lot of the times, it's the most needed communities, even when I drive down 3, or like we're fighting with Route 5 that doesn't belong to the city, We don't see any of those revenues. We don't see any of that stuff because we're fighting a constant game of chicken and or cat and mouse of trying to balance this budget. So I think, and I would encourage my colleagues to vote yes for all of those reasons. I always do my homework because I don't want anyone to say that Nelson just popped up that information out of his head. So those are the two reports I got it from, the school survey report in November and the city's RFP itself. Thank you.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Thank you. Born and raised in Holyoke, 48 years. Ever since the Lynch School came up, I've been driving by there more frequently. And I keep looking up at the school and I say, this may happen, this school may be gone. And it's a memory for me, and it's something that I hold dear. I didn't go to school there. No, I did not. But it's still, it's a piece of history. And it's a piece of Holyoke. And I am so against taking away from our community piece by piece and redesigning it to look like the future. I am against that. But I'm also a person who thinks logically, and that I try to make sense of it all. I sat for 2 hours with the Save the Lynch group. We sat there for 2 hours and spoke passionately about ideas, concepts, everything, even my personal life. And it was nice. It was nice because it made sense. And like I said, I was in the middle. Remove Lynch or find a repurpose. So I decided, I said, before I go in tonight to City Council, I need to do my due diligence. I need to do my own research. Physical. I didn't read anything on the in the newspaper or anything else. I physically went to the building that we're talking about, the Lynch School. For an hour and 20 minutes, my heart was shattered because what I knew what was Lynch School is no longer. There's holes in the wall, and asbestos. Oh my God, can we talk? Yes, asbestos. There's tons of it. It's everywhere. I left the building, and I could taste the rust in my mouth. It was just rusty, this weird taste. And again, my heart was shattered. Because before today, and I still find myself battling with this. I don't want it gone, but at the same time, it's almost it's a ship that has sailed, that it's sunk. Neglect over neglect over neglect over years, and it's shameful that I have to sit here and make this decision. Not just for myself, for all of us, but the community where I was born and raised in. This is such a hard pill to swallow, and whichever way I vote tonight, I need you to understand, it's not easy for me, it really isn't, because I'm a passionate person and I believe in the future of the city. But again, I look at the cost, right? I asked, what is the estimated value or to repurpose it? As far as an office space, it's about $20 million. And I said, just, for ha-has, what about school? $90 million. I don't know anything or much about asbestos. I know that I have some of it in my house, and I know that I can't stand my basement because I can't breathe when I'm down there because it's there. But I don't want any child, any person for that matter, to go into that building. Not after today, not after what I experienced. I would never want anyone to go in there for any reason at all. And then I find out that the gym were allowing children to play basketball in there. And then I'm told that it's about $40,000 just to heat up that small portion of the school. Well, when I was in there, I asked, why is there water? How did this water get here? The gentleman tells me, look up. there's holes in the roof. It is of essence. Is of essence. We need to figure out what we are going to do. We cannot allow this building to go neglected any further. We will pay dearly. And this is someone who wants to save the building, and trust me when I say this, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I would love to save this. If I had the money myself, I would save it to give back to the community and for generations to come. But today I was slapped with reality. And that reality is going to force me to vote yes. I'm sorry, that's all I have.
Councilor McGivern?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to first go on record and note and commend the Preserve Lynch organization that got together and for their efforts and commend them for both being articulate, doing their homework, understanding the issue, their passion, and their sincere message, both to the City Council and I think to the City of Holyoke. I don't agree with it, but at the same time, I recognize that they are part of our fabric, and an important part of our fabric in this wonderful and legendary city. Zone changes, I think Councilor Bacon said, but and certainly are one of the most difficult votes for us to take because of the nature of the city and our history. It pits residential neighborhoods against commercial industrial neighborhoods in all neighborhoods of the city. And they are difficult choices when we can give and for the better purpose of the city, a zone change to allow for development, which is so necessary. Before I make my decisions, besides the public hearings, besides the multiple meetings, I always remind myself of who we are, a planned industrial city. You know, began as Arlen Parish, and then when a group of Yankee business people came from Boston to take advantage of the river, they built the dams, the canals, the manufacturing sprouted up around the canals, the power, the electricity, the solar power with the way the city was designed facing the east. It's an incredible story and would be, as once predicted, the industrial paper city capital of the world. Unfortunately, as we know, it didn't happen. Industry moved out for various reasons, not all good, and we were left with what made this a wonderful residential city to live in. We were left with too many homes and not enough jobs. And we saw a lot of our housing stock deteriorate because there weren't people to rent from the landlords. And we had a history for a long time of trying to offset that by bringing new industry in, not just this current council, not just the past 2 decades, but decades prior to most of us even being born, including Councilor Sullivan. We have to recognize that to make a decision this evening, to make the right decision for the entire city. We have to recognize that we need to coexist with our industry, with our commercial district, because they are part of us, and they need to understand the residential community is part of them. In order to keep a healthy tax base, in order to keep a healthy budget to provide the services we do as a city, we must have and we must allow for growth, and we must protect and have it as planned growth to allow that to give us that necessary tax base. We didn't get into this with blinders on our eyes. This has been 10 years. As much as I enjoy the group that's talking about preserving Lynch, we've talked about Lynch for 9 years now. The school committee gave it up, as Mike Bayardi said. Some members of the school committee tried to get it back after about 5 years. That was denied. RFPs went out, they were denied. David Bartley, told the story of we met with Colhurst after an RFP was met through the legal process, the mayor's office, negotiation, listening to the city council in that RFP, in that agreement that we adopted, that we approved for the mayor, was no gas stations, no drugstores, a couple other no's, and then find a good developer. We unanimously found out the developer that the mayor picked was Colvest, and we did our research in DGR, presented it to this body, and everybody agreed. They are one of the finest developers I've seen come into this chambers. They have a plan. Is it the best plan in the world for what our hopes and desires and dreams are? There is no such thing as the best plan. It's a plan at a given moment in time. They have the finances to complete the plan itself. $250,000, but they're going to spend $1 million just on the demolition, and they're going to spend multiple $1 million by the time this project comes to fruition. They can do it. They've come forward. It's a backwards process when you have to negotiate the sale of property prior to a zone change. We should be making zone changes before the mayor negotiates the sale of property and discussing the issues we're talking tonight. Zone change is about use. 1999, we asked the city, and they completed a very comprehensive master plan, which needs to be updated, an incredible amount of participation from citizens across the city with public hearings in every ward. In this off-the-highway district, including the one by the mall, was cited as for commercial controlled growth. Not to let it impact the residential neighborhoods, Ward 7. We already taken steps to keep the overlay for Ward 6 to make sure we kept the best residential character we could in the southerly direction of Route 5. We've taken those steps. We have a plan. We need to make up for the tax dollars that we lost when the Mount Tom coal plant closed. A good thing that the Mount Tom coal plant closed in terms of the environment, a bad things in terms of our tax base itself. We are struggling to provide the services. We are struggling to provide the education that our children need to find the jobs, to make this a healthier community, and to break those bonds of poverty that keeps Holyoke tied down to a degree where we can't not overlook a development proposal like this in front of us and not be able to say to our constituents, we cannot provide the services because we are trying to do too much at one time. The city does not have the money to protect Lynch, yet alone to develop it. Private sector dollars is needed to do that. We saw this with buildings that we, 25 years ago, mothballed, an apartment building that the National Guard helped us board up 25 years ago, 5 years ago, fell into the street on Jackson and Maple Street. We saw it with the Essex House, fell into the street on High Street. We've seen it with the Bud over here, almost fell into the street before it was demolished and taken down. There are a lot of properties that deserve saving. There's a lot of architectural soundness in this city that we do need to protect and preserve. But right now, we have a chance with a development. We need to make the tough decision and grant this fine developer, in my opinion, the zone change so they can go forward with their proposal. The proposal that was a while ago presented to us, and we agreed not only to the price, but we agreed to what they were proposing to do with the property.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all the voices who came down to speak this evening. I've been on the ordinance committee and part of the very many public hearings that have taken place. On Tuesday night of last week, I voted in favor of the zone change approval, and I noted that I'm very conflicted on the vote that I have to take. And that I will be voting no this evening, but I do hope that the project is able to move forward without my vote. I believe that I need to give voice to the opposition constituency because they have supported me on so many issues over the years that I've been a city councilor, and that I need to return the favor and support their position. But I wholeheartedly believe that this parcel should be zoned BH. Any other zone would be a spot zone and highly out of step with the other parcels in the area. If I were representing my own vote and my own position with my vote tonight, I'd be voting yes, but I will be voting no to give voice to that opposition constituency. The Lynch School property is the only property that is not BH currently in that area. I also want to point out that it's only the Lynch School property that is being considered for the rezoning. It's not Anniversary Field. Anniversary Field will remain a city park and the public will have access to that field. I've heard numerous concerns about the health impact related to asbestos And I want to just note that I believe that there's a greater risk of health impacts with a rehab of the project, of the building, than with the full demolition. Because with the rehab project, you need to be more careful. You have to create more controls because there's more risks with having to take down and control the asbestos as opposed to being able to wet down the material wholesale and control the asbestos dust in that manner. I've heard arguments that this property should be used for residential or office space, and I find that to be totally out of step with the character of the neighborhood. The neighborhood is Business Highway. This is the only parcel that is not Business Highway. I would not want to live in a residential neighborhood that was stuck between a towing company and auto repair shop and access to the highway entrance. I don't think office spaces would be successful there. We have seen office spaces unsuccessfully placed at other periphery areas in the city. I want to make sure that we note that in the last round of proposals that came before the city, many of the opponents that are here today had mentioned that they would like to see something like a Whole Foods or Trader Joe's come to the city in that spot. The BH zone allows for something like a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods to come into that lot. The city doesn't pick and choose which projects go into those spaces. We choose the zoning and the use, and then the private the private sector goes out to the market and finds the proper projects that are going to fit that spot. I want to note that we're only at the zoning stage of this process. The Colvest development can produce traffic improvements to that area. They can also produce improvements to the Rite Aid property. We could ask them for these types of updates through the site plan review process. I want to also stress that in this stage of the process, that we are not talking at all about project development. So all of the traffic details, the design standards, the project design, they're not even on the table at this point. We don't know what types of businesses are going to go there, what they'll look like, what special permits they may need. We're really just talking about the appropriateness of the BH zone. And then finally, I just want to note, I really pride myself as a counselor who brought smart growth principles to the city and really changed the conversation about how we're going to utilize the historic infrastructure of the city, focus on infill development and economic development at the city center, in the urban core. And I just want to note that we cannot sustain that type of development, that model of development throughout the entire city. If we are serious about smart growth, urban redevelopment, infill development, and historic preservation of our downtown, we cannot create the same type of boutique infill development that we want to see downtown in all different areas of the city. They're just not going to be, it's not sustainable. It's not feasible to have the entire city focus on the same type of development. So again, I'll note, I'll be voting no. I hope the project moves forward without me. I think I need to give voice to this constituency who has voted and supported me in the past, and I think I made a number of points here that says that if I were voting for myself, I'd be voting otherwise, and I hope you could take some of those points with you.
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to be voting the way I think that I should vote after doing my due diligence. It's not because any group wants me to do it. I'm going to be voting on this because I've done my due diligence. I've been sitting in this room for 19 years, close to 20 years, and we've been talking about this for close to, I think, over 10 years, having Lynch School, and what are we going to do about it? And you know, shame on us for not doing something about it 10 years ago, and it forces us today. I've been keeping my cards extremely close to my chest. No one knows how I'm going to vote on this, which is interesting because you get a lot of different phone calls in the last day. Not sure where those phone calls were the last couple of months, but nonetheless, I'm getting a lot of phone calls. You know, what I think about, my thoughts are, you know, what are the functions of us, the city council, working in conjunction with the mayor? The way I look at it, it's only a few things. It's safety, it's education, and it's quality of life. how do you go about those? You have to make sure you have the right zone, which is for the the people at home. It's making sure you have the highest and best use for a particular piece of land in a different spot. What are we doing here tonight? What we're finally doing is, after a long period of time, we're voting on a zone change. We're looking at what is the best quality of use to this property. 1575 Northampton Street, it's zoned R1A. Tonight, they're asking us to change it to BH. As Councilor McGivern had said, that this is a backwards type of vote. We should have done this some time ago. It would have helped us market it, I think, better. However, having said that, I often think of a quote from John F. Kennedy when he talks about conformity. It's the soul of freedom, and it's the enemy of growth. I think we should always try to be growing in many different ways, and that's why I'm going to be voting the way I am tonight. Looking over at this project, some of the things that stick out to me is the planning board who did all their due diligence and got a lot of paperwork and got a lot of information. They voted for it a couple of weeks back, 4-1. It's a pretty strong vote. We also have a very strong economic development team, and that they're committed to making sure that we have the highest and best use of all of our properties. Right now, our budget goes up and up and up each year. And you can point out different key factors of that budget. We do that quite a bit. But what it basically comes down to is insurance. Each year we pay more and more in insurance costs. I filed an order, it didn't go anywhere, that the city of Holyoke goes on to the state GIC plan. That's the plan that state workers have, and that's the plan the Springfield city employees have, and they're paying less because there's a bigger pool to share the burden. Each year we're going to have to pay more, and so if we're going to have to pay more, we're going to have to think of different ways to increase our revenue sources. What does the city of Holyoke need? We need business, we need retail, and we need jobs. I heard my counselor to my left say that if it wasn't for a minimum wage job, he wouldn't have gone anywhere. People need jobs. Do you know how hard it is to find a job nowadays during Christmas time? You having mother hours, or even fathers or people looking for jobs, but yet high school kids are now getting them. And so people are stuck. We need more jobs. We need more growth. I'm going to be voting for this tonight, this zone change. Another quote that I always liked, I learned in school, was James Cash Penney, owner of J.C. Penney's. Growth is never by mere change. It's the result of forces together. So the people from the Save Lynch School, who I applaud, who've done a fantastic job bringing a lot of information together in a very short period of time, I do applaud all of you guys, and I think that you guys should continue working hard on many different issues, because I think you guys are a wonderful group. But I also want to thank all the people that are for this zone change as well. I think that both sides have been working well. I'm just representing myself. I'm not representing either side of you guys. I just want to say that I applaud all of you guys, and I'm going to be voting for the zone change. Thank you.
Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for everybody coming down and all the correspondences I got from everybody. This has been one of the hardest decisions that I've had to think about and research and talk to people about. I graduated from Lynch, one of the last classes when it was a full 7th, 8th, and 9th grade class. It's a beautiful building. The auditorium, the music room that's at the front where Mr. Ezell taught for years. It's just a fantastic structure. I think that we played the game a little wrong here. I think that, up until recently when we realized there might be a buyer, or this whole process was going through, Lynch School looked disgusting. There was dead trees in the front of it. There was panhandles living in front of it. And nobody did anything about that. I think that had we perhaps worked a little harder at getting a buyer interested, one of which would have been zoning it business a long time ago when the school department gave it to the city council. The other was, at one time there was a wooden sign that said, there was to contact the economic development office. We should have talked about maybe a commercial real estate agent trying to sell this property. I mean, for us to have more opportunities to do something with this property, we have to think about that in the future. I have the architecture of the building it does nothing for me. I have prided myself on being business friendly when I worked for the city and as a city councilor, any kind of business, whether it was the business they were going to put at Mount Tom or Wyckoff Park, or whether they're going to put, changing the zone for a bodega. It never mattered to me because cities have to run on businesses. We have one of the highest tax rate commercial in the state of Massachusetts. So who wants to come here? The school systems are in receivership. Who wants to, you want to take that risk? You want to come to a business where you're going to start a business, tax rate's huge, the school systems are kind of in trouble. So it's tough, and I appreciate people moving here. I think that's fantastic. This is much like Hoyle Catholic. That I remember they had Hoyle Catholic meetings saying the building's going to fall down. It's got asbestos in it. It's got lead paint in it. People are going to die. It's falling down. Much like what happened with MD. The same thing happened with Hoyle Catholic, for those of you that remember that or were here for that. I remember as a health director going to the War Memorial speaking against them taking down Hoyle Catholic because it could be reused. I mean, it sometimes is like, can we think outside the box? Lynch is 83,000 square feet. We're getting $3 a foot for it. I mean, it might be an easier pill for me to swallow if it was maybe $500,000. I just think the price is a little low. That's not to say I'm not in favor of this, but I just want to remind people that many people that are so pro-business, and so is helping the taxpayers, voted for the CPA, voted down the casino for maybe moral reasons, I don't know. They were going to put the casino in my backyard, and I was still going to vote for it because I knew the jobs. You didn't need a master's degree to deal cards. The money we were going to get, the tax revenue we were going to get. I could spend my entire paycheck at Rudd's Ice Cream Place playing bingo and scratch tickets. Gambling is gambling, okay? I mean, unless you want to ban it everywhere or ban it nowhere. Now our neighboring town is seeing the fruits of their $25 million into the tax coffers. That's a game changer. Not $80,000 a year for a building that's going to have a Walgreens or whatever they want to have. And again, I don't want to live in the past, but City Hall Annex was brought up, the War Memorial, 2 buildings that are in need of help. I mean, where are we going to put the people from the City Hall Annex? Could we quarantine off a section of Lynch, perhaps, and put those offices up there? If the asbestos was so dangerous, do you think they'd let us in there? I worked in the asbestos field. I removed asbestos. The asbestos that's in there is not the super dangerous, friable stuff that used to be on the old, we used to call them snow cones, the white stuff that breaks up and gets you. I still have to get my chest x-rayed every 10 years because I removed that stuff for years when I was out of school. So the asbestos argument is a weak one. I think that the argument is do we vote to tell people that, yeah, we're business friendly, or do we vote to tear down a building? It has really no historic value. It's not that old. I mean, it'd be great to save the front of it and give it down to the warehouse or something for preservation purposes. As I said to someone today, it was going to be a bottom of the ninth inning decision for me, and it really still is a bottom of the ninth inning decision for me. This has been a tough one, but again, if there was a little bit more money on the table, I really don't care what they put there. I have no loyalty to the architectural design. None of that really means anything to me. I want lower property taxes. That's what I want. I want to make sure that if I call 911, there's a fire ambulance that's going to get to my house to save my family, or a police cruiser that's going to come up and save my family. That's what I care about. You know what we need? We need taxes coming into the city of Holyoke to do that. But it's not an easy decision, my friends. It's not an easy, and I know many of you have been fighting the same battle that I haven't been fighting, and I've spoken to many of you about that. But it's just we need business. That's what the bottom line is that we need business. I'm not the type of person to flip-flop. I'm a pretty straight shooter, believe me. Unfortunately, sometimes too much of a straight shooter. Sometimes I'm a little brutally honest. I can't say where I am until I say where I am, but this is going to be one of the toughest decisions I had to deal with. I just want people to remember, in 5 years when that CPA tax comes up, and you're all going to sit here and tell you you want to lower the taxes and you want to be business friendly. Let's remember how we're voting tonight. When other businesses, whatever kind of business it is, let's remember how you vote tonight. You're either pro-business or you're not pro-business. You can't pick and choose what business or what type of business or what they're going to be selling to come into our community. Thank you.
Anyone else? just make one comment. The history of this has been a little painful on my side. I am a former teacher at Lynch School. Not sure if I should brag about that. Some of the kids might have denied my teaching ability. But when I got on the council and we took over the property, as Mike Miotti pointed out, I was one of the ones to file the order to give it back. Because Dr. Reich was coming in, it was a receiver. I said, here's my chance to give the school back. They can use it not maybe as a school, but for an office. Get them out of 57 Suffolk Street, stop paying rent. Of which I then volunteered, because I always have a lot of time in my life, to join Marcos Marrero, Rory Casey, John Burnell, Councilor Lisi, on a committee to review several parcels in this city. Of which my push in that meetings, and they'll confirm it, was, we're going to Lynch. We're going to Lynch. John Burnell said, no, you're not. And we kept fighting back and forth. And it was Marcos that separated us and said, here are the numbers. Numbers don't lie. And he spelled it out. It wasn't about asbestos or anything else. It was, here are the numbers and what you possibly can and cannot do. That was the eye-opener. Speaking of numbers, seeing how I was the former chair of finance, one of the things I noticed when doing the budget the last few years and working on it was, if you go to page 31, Department of Public Works, listed there is energy costs for Lynch School. 52107. Blank. It's been like that for the last 2 to 3 years. There's no money going in there to make the school stay habitable. In essence, they cut the funding so you don't have the heat on, you don't have the electricity on. Yes, a few years back, I was working with Peter Leclerc in order to run the basketball programs in there to get the gym up in use because we had nowhere to put kids. So we were stealing the building to use it for that purpose. That was about $50,000 a year. That was pulled from the budget. If you don't have heat or anything else running through the building, as DPW would tell you, it just slowly deteriorates on itself, hence what you walked into, Councilor Anderson Burgos. Other numbers, because I am a numbers guy, we sat in on a meeting where the new chair of finance, Councilor McGivern, had people in from the schools to talk about our 2 middle schools. Not sure if everyone saw this, but the end total, they're all guesstimates as of for now, but roughly the city's share, if we want 2 new middle schools, $55,271,000, which then, how would you pay for that? That would come out of a 30-year bond, which then, once again, these are all estimates. Estimated costs on the residential would go up by about 1.31. You're at 1913. The commercial side is 3969. Well, their estimate they actually didn't even put in there, but I can, oh no, actually it was 273. Our benchmark in this whole council and in the community has been, do not put the commercial rate over 40%. That is bad. You just did it. But the reverse is your schools are crumbling. Dr. Reich, the receiver, whether you like receivership or not, has said these schools need attention. Peck School has to come down. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Shut it down. That came from the state, not even from him. So $55 million to cover 2 new middle schools that are in desperate need. Which then is, well, how do you start offsetting those costs? Well, we're going to get into the finances and how to do that. But one way of doing it is bringing in business, bringing in other taxpayers to do that. We do have a really good business community here. Once I sat as the president, I went to the Taxpayers Association, of which they asked that I start doing tours of businesses. Councilor Tallman has joined me in one of those, Westside Finishing. It's a family-owned business. About 50% of their staff comes from Holyoke, and they live around the area. They actually walk to work. They're begging us to do something with the tax rate. Otherwise, they're looking to expand. They're clear about it. They're looking to expand, and if they expand, it's going to be out of the city. So we're losing that taxpayer, potentially. I'm not saying they're gone, but they begged us and said, thank you for coming for the tour, thank you for understanding us, but what we're really asking of you is for help. So I applaud the committee for saving the school. I've been trying to save that school by joining committees and trying to push people to do what I want, but the numbers are unrealistic. And therefore, we're stuck with what to do with this building. I was a vote no with Councilor Bartley and many others over the last one. They came out of Florida, and their main pitch was potentially an autopolis. No, I voted right away no. And when they said we're going to come back for a drive-through window, I said, good luck, I will fight that tooth and nail. Ultimately, they walked away. Which now is, here's a new developer, which then is, are they the developer we want? I came into that meeting, no. $250,000 to me was insulting for that property. It was just one thing that they did say is, we want to help you save the historical aspects of the building. We're willing, like we did in Springfield, to have members of the community or city council come in and offer that up. I don't know if that's what you need or what you want, but that was something that they offered up that no one else did. They said we're just going to tear it down and rebuild something else. They're saying we're trying to help in some way, shape, or form like we did in Springfield to an old church. I don't have the answers for you. I just know one thing. Your budget is off. I know Rory's going to throw something at me in a minute. It's off about $2.4 million. Free cash has not been certified from the state yet. We don't know where that is. Worst case scenario comes back at 2. You're off by 0.4. So $400,000, where do you get it from? Stabilization. We just said no to the police on stabilization for $285,000 for cars. As you can start to see the problem, it's starting to snowball. $1.4 million for traffic lights so you can cross the street by Lynch safely. You cannot do that right now because you don't have crosswalks. Know why I know that? My poor wife and I walk with the kids in the strollers. They're not there. They're not existing. Haven't been there for about 3 years. We just passed a bond for 1.4. That's going to add to your taxes. We are way behind on catching up on things that need to be repaired in the city. Problem is we don't have the money to do it. And now we have businesses who are begging us, how can you help us? So now we're on the in-between. One thing I actually did like with regards to this meeting and every call that I received or email, they were pleasant. And that's what we need in this city. I have begged time and time again, even if you don't like a developer, don't bash them and send them away. Because what they'll do is talk about the city badly. I've asked, can we do it politely? If you don't like them, tell why, and then make a vote. This has been a very pleasant process, very cordial. Everyone made their points, and that's what this city needs to do to go forward, to then bring in more business. Is this the right project? I think everyone's touched on that perfectly, and we'll address it with a vote. But I do appreciate everyone in the community, not only here in the body, but in the community, taking a different tone towards dealing with business and how they come in here. Thank you.
On the motion.
So the motion is that it pass the first reading. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is to pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion is that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the zone change. If you vote no, you're voting against it. For point of reference, I did pull from the bucket. Councilor Roman, you are first.
And supermajority consists of what?
9.
2/3.
2/3, so 9 vote.
Yep, thank you.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
No.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
11 yeas, 1 nay.
With your vote, you approve the zone change to BH.
Mr. President,
Councilor Leahy.
could we take out of order item number 31, which is appointing the city auditor?
Thank you.
Motion is to proceed
Second.
out of order. Item 31. All those in favor? All those opposed?
We should have people in the audience, I figured.
Yep.
Work with your schedules. Number 31.
Give me 1 second to find.
Carl.
Yeah.
Item 31, introduced by Councilor Leahy and McGee, order that the city council vote to appoint a city auditor.
Maybe if we could, Councilor McGivern was so kind with Councilor Lisi to run the meeting. Maybe we can have pull out of committee as well.
Is it in the committee?
Public service.
Do you have the report? Did you get that? All right. Councilor Lisi is going to be happy as our vice chair. She ran the meeting. And I will be happy to chip.
To interview them?
Is there, okay, so there really wasn't anything in public service.
Motion to move to the first ballot.
Second.
Motion is to move to the first ballot. I do understand what Councilor Leahy is saying. The committee did take this up, Councilor Lisi, Councilor McGivern, Councilor Vacan, Councilor Tallman, people might come in afterwards. I left sick. Did take this up. If they would like to report as to the interviews, first, Councilor Vacan.
Mr. President, if you could simply read to the body the names of the people that were interviewed, or if a member of the committee could, I think that would be helpful
Yeah,
for
that's
the
what I was
body.
asking for.
I know. I'll turn it over to Councilor Lisi, who ran the meeting. Councilor Lisi?
I was just going to make some general remarks. I don't have the list of who showed up in front of me. Thank you. Oh, thanks. So of the many applications that we received, we interviewed 4 candidates that evening. It was Jeremiah Blackenbaker, Elizabeth Harlow Harris, Tanya Wadowiak, and Ian Spence. And all 4 candidates were very qualified in different ways. Everybody brought a wealth of skills and information to the table. I think that everybody that participated in the hearing that evening did a really great job of helping to vet the candidates and ask questions about their municipal experience, their ability to work with different software platforms, their ability to be independent thinkers given the competing interests inside of City Hall. So I really thank the councilors that made it that evening, Councilor Tallman, Councilor Bacon, and my committee member, Councilor McGivern, for helping that evening. But it was a very fair and robust process, and I thank everybody for coming down.
Was there a recommendation out of the committee, or just that the interviews are done?
We understood the process to not include a recommendation, since everybody has their, as legislators have the ability to make a voice vote of whomever they choose, whether or not they were interviewed. And so we didn't feel it was appropriate to make a recommendation.
I just want to get that on the record. Also, as a reminder, anyone who was interviewed, you still do not have to vote for them. You can pick anyone that was never interviewed and still vote for them. I'm just telling you the process. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Councilor Lisi summed it up. There were originally, if everybody remembers, we received 26 packets. There were 2 ways to vet those packages into interviews. The first way was the acting auditor, our human resource personnel department, and I believe someone from the mayor's office reviewed a number of the applicants and interviewed, I think, less than 7 themselves. But we said that's not the only process, and Mr. President and the chair of the committee were very good to reach out to every city councilor on at least 3 occasions to remind them that if you wanted someone to be interviewed, to let the chair know or to let Todd know, and they would get on the list. There were 10 people on the list that were supposed to be interviewed. Before the night of the interviews, 3 dropped out. That was Kelly Price, Francesca Adorna, and Forhad Tariq. They dropped out. I think we were told 2 of them had found other employment, and one of them was no longer interested. So that left us with 7. We interviewed 4 of the 7, as Councilor Lisi pointed out. The other 3 did not show up for the interviews. To this date, I have no explanations of why they did not show. So as Councilor McGee said, it's an open process. We've had the 26 packages for some time now, and I think the qualifications speak for themselves.
Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, I really want to thank the committee for doing a great job. I watched the interviews, I read all the resumes, and I thought the committee that night, they were a little shorthanded, but they really stepped up, and I thought they represented the city council well. So I just want to personally thank them for holding down the fort. But the video said all I said. I just want to make a comment through the chair to all the candidates. Just the candidates should be aware. We're in this body. We're not supposed to. We don't talk to each other. We talk always to the chair, but we can speak through the chair. So I just want to make a couple of comments. I've made my decision on whom I'm going to support. I think the candidate will be a real credit to the city. But whomever is selected, Mr. President, I will support that candidate. I am available to talk to that candidate who will be in that position. Whatever happened to the other 2, Mr. Smith and Mr. Pischel, I have my opinion on what happened, why they left office. It had nothing to do with this body, but I think it had to do with another branch of city government. So my frustration by both them leaving is that they left before they could express their frustration to me. They're gone. I didn't have a chance to even pose an argument. They resigned. And so now we've been in this acting auditor nonsense for 5 years. So to whomever gets this job, it's not going to be an easy job. You know that. It's a demanding job. It's a time-consuming job. You know that going in. I'm going to be unfairly compensated. We know that as a city government. We're broke. You've heard everybody say that tonight. This city's broke. I don't care what the mayor says. $2.2 million is broke. And we're digging into stabilization funds last year. We almost had to dig into them to balance the budget. Thank God this body stopped it. Barely, but we stopped it. So to whomever gets the job, I am available. I don't speak for any other counselor here, but I can safely say, I would suggest to you, any counselor would step up and say the exact same thing. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be aggravated. Come to us. Don't just bang your head against the wall that ultimately, hang your hat and fold your tent and depart the city. We can't we can't operate like this. Yes, you are our appointee, but this is basically a lifetime gig. So, you got the job. There's no time limit on this job. I guess you could walk in there and not show up and just collect a check. I mean, I'm not really sure what the charter gives us for repercussions. It's basically you're our appointment for such. It's not a term limit appointment. It's not like a 3-year deal. You're appointed. That's it. So I hope you'll like the job. Obviously, hope and pray that you'll treat the employees in there fairly because they're veteran employees deserving of respect and hopefully a pay raise. And I thank Councilor Bacon for pushing that forward. Hopefully a pay raise will be approved for those veteran employees that serve the city so well with passion and integrity. I know to whomever gets this job is going to bring that same amount of integrity. But please know that I, for one, will always be available. My number is available. My email is available. It's on the city website. Reach out to me anytime. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was able to attend the interviews, and one of the reasons I made the effort to come down is because I see this as one of the most critical positions in our city. And I did take the opportunity to follow up with the candidate that I felt was the strongest out of the interviews. I hope my colleagues have had the opportunity to see the interviews that were taped. But if you haven't, for whatever it's worth, for your consideration and doing due diligence, and in my follow-up, I will be casting my vote for Tanya Zaujiak tonight, and I may have fractured her name, but my apologies in that regard. Thank you.
Anyone else? Counselor Tallman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also made it down to the meeting that night and interviewed the candidates. I want to thank all the candidates actually for coming down and putting their application into the city. When we get the applications a few months back and it's 27 people, I was really amazed to see that number of applications. And I know the last time we put it out, there wasn't too many. And this time we got quite a few, and then we vetted it down to, we had 7 people. And on that night of the interviews, we had 4 people show up, which was, really impressive for me. People that really want to work for the city and desire to have a role in this very important position in city government, because it is a vital position in city government. And I was happy to be part of that discussion and those asking a couple of very, very important questions of the person that's going to handle this job. And I'm really pleased with all the candidates, and I just hope everybody did get to see the tapes and talk to some of the candidates that we have a discussion. We have a vote tonight on this candidate because this is a position that's just gone too long to having an acting person in there. I'm sure the person that is going to do this job is willing to get ready and get started to help our city and to move on with our financial issues for years to come. So thank you.
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you, President McGee. First of all, I just want to say Councilor McGee and I have been working on this for some time now, so it's good that we're going to be voting on this tonight. But I do also want to give some props where props are due. We have Hector, our new person in City Hall. He did a fantastic job with this, along with our guy Ryan. Ryan also did a fantastic job, and if you haven't seen it already, Ryan has sent out a link, that Boxcast, so everybody can watch the interviews from their phone or tablet. But I also want to thank Rebecca, our Councilor Lisi and Councilor McGivern for their due diligence in working on that. I was out of town on business, unfortunately, but they both stepped up and did a great job because I watched that meeting, I taped it as well. And I just want to thank them. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, with that, the motion was to proceed with the first ballot. Clerk will call the roll. She'll go around and state the name of the person. You got to get 7 votes. First to get 7 is the new auditor.
Reverse alphabetical?
Do we still? Well, that's a good question. Do you want to do it based on the name that was pulled, or do you want to go in alphabetical
that's what it should be
order?
done.
Yeah.
There's no reason it should be done otherwise. It was a made-up rule. It doesn't exist. But show me the site. I mean, Joe and I are joking. We're joking.
I volunteer to go first.
We're joking.
We'll go with.
We're joking, but
we'll go with Council Roman. His name was pulled. He's more than happy to start the call.
Roman?
Tanya W, because I don't know how to pronounce the last name. I apologize.
W is actually silent.
I know, but it's how it's spelled. I don't want to butcher it. Miss W, Tanya W.
What's that?
Sullivan?
Tanya Doyak.
Very good.
Tolman?
Tanya Doviak.
Bacon?
Tanya Joviak.
Anderson Burgos?
Tanya Doviak.
Bartley?
Tanya Doyak.
Bresnan?
Tanya Dobiak.
Leahy?
Is Tanya Doviak?
Doviak.
LeBron Martinez?
Tanya Doviak.
Lisi?
Tanya Doviak.
McGee?
Tanya Doviak.
McGivern? Tanya Doviak, appointed auditor with 12 votes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to our new auditor, and our apologies for butchering your name on the very first day.
Mr. President, can I point out one thing?
Councilor
Now the
Weaver.
vote has taken place. No one asked a thing about residency, which we did change. Ms. Dobiak is a resident of the city of Holyoke.
Proud Ward 5 resident.
Now,
to regular
with
order.
that, also a thanks to Bellamy, who has been here. He's been our acting, as Councilor Bartley said, for several years. He took some time off and then came back. Truly appreciate all his efforts in
Thank you,
helping
Bellamy.
out the city. And to Ms. Doviak, and I promise I'll get it right one of these days. If you ever need anything, this council is open to you. As Councilor Bartley has said, do not feel afraid to come talk to us. However it may be, call us, email. or if you just want to send a communication and come in, we can do it that way as well. So welcome to the city.
Mr. President?
Councilor Leahy, and then Councilor Bartley.
One last thing, too. I believe that Ms. Doviak is our first female auditor in the history of the city of Holyoke as well. So congratulations on that.
Councilor Bartley.
When does Ms. Dowiak commence? Does she sworn, Madam Clerk? Can we suspend, Madam Clerk, would she see you tomorrow, or?
I think there's other issues that have to take place.
Right, I think you have to
When would that happen then, Mr. President?
Well, I'll get to the answer to that tomorrow, but there is a transition period because Bellamy will have to, in essence, for logins and password, all different turnover points. I will get an answer tomorrow as to the official date. I'll talk with Hector tomorrow. But there's going to be a process of transitioning. Anyone else? With that, we're going back
Number 3.
To number 3. Make sure I got everything in order. Number 3, communications. From the mayor's office, reappointing Patricia Duffy to serve as 5-year term for redevelopment authority. Motion would be approved. It was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item 4 is from
4 and
Bellamy.
5 we could take as a package and suspend the rule, take as a package and send to.
Motion is to take
receive
up
and send
4 and
finance.
5 as a package. All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed?
Copies to the Committee on Finance.
Copies, finance, sorry. amend my
4
order.
is regarding the city bonds, and another one is regarding the monthly budget reports. Both to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Number 6 is the minutes of the September 19th meeting.
Motion receive and approve.
Motion is to receive and approve. No edits, no comments.
I like MMC now, I know what it means.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Number 7 is from Terry Shepard with regards to the memorial honor, which is tomorrow at 3:30.
Motion to receive.
Motion is to
Second.
receive.
Second.
And that's as a reminder. All those in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
8 is minutes of the Park and Rec.
Suspend the rules and take items 8, 9, 10 as a package.
Motion is to take 8, 9, and 10 as a package. All those in favor? All those opposed? 8 is Park and Rec meetings. 9 is Economic Development meetings. 10 is the Redevelopment Authority meetings. Motion be to receive.
Motion receive.
All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Number 11 is from DPW, the Complete Streets Project overview.
Mr. President, can we suspend the rules and take 11 and 17J as a package, please?
So 11 and 17J?
Yes.
All right, let me just pick those up.
See you later.
Motion is suspend rules, take up 11 and 17J as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 11, as I said, was the Complete Street Project. 17J is from Committee on Ordinance, who was referred that the DPW Superintendent assess the placement of crosswalks near Homestead at HCC. That was complied with.
Right, so the motions to receive and adopt, I guess both. Receive is both.
Motion is to receive.
Receive for the first one and
receive and
complied with.
adopt for ordinance.
Comply with for the ordinance one. They're
All right, so, yeah. 'cause
related.
Yeah, okay. So motion is to receive and adopt, and 11 really is an attachment to 17J. Any
Just
comments, Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, I appreciate we suspend the rules on this, that 17J is something that Councilor Lisi filed, I don't know, a year ago. But I think I helped shepherd it through. But the main thing is, that's been a massive problem area in that neck of the Holyoke for a long time, and now this Complete Streets project is gonna go a long way towards, I think, mitigating it. Is it gonna be a perfect? No, it's not, but it's a really welcome change. So I'm very happy that the superintendent was able to forward this information to us, and the city was able to procure these funds, and that portion therefrom is gonna go towards resolving the issue explained in 17J, which has been, since my father was president of HCC, you know, going back millennia, it's been a blinking light where, I mean, that street is crossed all the time by residents who walk there, whatever, persons and pets over HCC, and it's you know, it's an obstacle course going back there. I can tell you from firsthand experience, just when I used to take care of the garden up there, it was, you know, it's a life and death situation on a regular basis. So, that's why I stopped doing it. And so, but now I think with the signalized crosswalk, it's going to be a major improvement once that's implemented. So I want to thank Councilor Lisi for kind of guiding this through. I want to thank the Ordinance Committee and Department of Public Works for its due diligence in getting the funds necessary to improve it. Thank you.
Councilor Lisi?
I'm just going to motion that we suspend the necessary rules and take up 17J since we started talking about it already. It's connected.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, it wasn't just the complete streets, you took them up together?
Took them up, we suspended rules,
Yeah.
and took them together.
Catch that, sorry.
Lock and load, yep.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support the motion and the, what Councilor Bartley has just said, but also could we attach a copy of 11 to item 48 for the Finance Committee? A copy of the Finance Committee is what I'm saying.
Send a copy to Finance.
Yes.
Motion-
48 we can take up later.
Motion to amend, and per Councilor McGivern's recommendation. amend my
Motion is to
motion.
amend, which is to receive, adopt, and send a copy to Finance.
Please.
What was with 48?
Second.
I'll attach it in committee. We'll
Okay.
do 48 later.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the committee and then also Mike McManus for helping to move this signalized crosswalk on Homestead Ave across from HCC forward. And really want to commend the numerous city residents that had really contacted us about the problems there. Really, we work on the residents' behalf, and so we need to hear from residents where the problems and issues are so that we can attend to them. And I do want to recognize the work that Councilor Bartley did to really try to get HCC to play a part in the improvements over there. Although the city found its own way, I think that it's nice to think outside of the box and think creatively about who our community partners are and how they can assist us with necessary improvements to the different areas within our city. Thank you.
Any further discussion? So its motion is complied with, actually it was receive, adopt, that's been complied with, and a copy to Finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Number 12, from Mike McManus, the Pouliot Pool update.
Receive and refer to finance.
Thank you.
Receive for Finance, all those in favor?
Under discussion?
Before we take a vote, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, this is the opposite of what we just talked about. So this is amazing. So because we couldn't get our act together in city government, not only did we screw up a park grant, but because we couldn't get our act together in timely fashion, now a $1.5 million pool is now a $1.8 million pool. You know, it's just money, I guess, but it's, you know, somebody's gonna have to step up and take ownership of this in city government. You know, I don't know who did it. I just know we passed this grant. We accepted this grant. We passed the bond for the pool in a timely fashion here, and our fellow city workers can't get their act together in a timely fashion. I don't know why this is hard. Just submit it, and we're good to go, and we can start the process. Well, they couldn't get their act together. I don't know who it was. It's a mystery, Mr. President, but somebody in city government didn't get it until now from 1.5 to 1.8. So, you know, you're the math guy. I think that's a 20% jump, but, you know, maybe I'm wrong. But it's nevertheless, that is a $300,000 penalty Forget the fact that we may or may not get the park grant, which was $400,000. So that adds to the penalty by that not happening. So pointing it out, I don't know who to point the finger to. We know certain department heads will take no blame whatsoever, but, somebody is at fault for this. And I want that explained. Hopefully it will be, maybe in finance. We'll see. Thank you.
It'll go to finance where that question will be asked, because I do remember the grant specifically. It came in last minute, and we suspended the rules to address it on the floor right then and there because of the timeline. It wasn't their fault. It came in from the state that way. So it was timely done, and this has to be addressed. So motion is to refer to Councilor McGivern.
We'll be happy, real quick, Mr. President, we'll be happy to take it up in finance. Just note, this is a copy of a communication to the mayor, and it's the mayor who's going to have to make a presentation if he so chooses in terms of any additional fundings. But if we can do some preliminary work, we'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, they'll have to redo the bond. They'll have to request the bond language. So to finance, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 13, from President of the Chamber of Commerce, Barry Feingold, asking the City Council to support to have Holyoke as a vital center for business.
Motion
Motion
received.
Receive.
Copy,
favor?
let's copy of
All those-
DGR, Mr. President, if you would.
Receive with a copy
Yeah,
to
'cause
DGR.
we'll have them in at some point.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 14, from the citizens of Holyoke, petition to the City Council to hold a public hearing regarding 1575 Northampton Street.
A motion give leave to withdraw.
Second.
Is it leave to withdraw, or was it already?
I mean, it's out of order, Mr. President.
It's new business for business that's already over.
It's kind of moot at this point.
Well, I understand, but a petition was to have a hearing, but didn't you have a hearing
Well,
in ordinance?
consent to committee?
We did, yes.
So,
President,
Councilor-
I would suggest, because it's a petition, that we
Yeah.
refer a copy to the law department.
Yeah.
We cannot give petitions leave to withdraw,
That's why I'm
even though I
asking.
think it's something we've already done.
I'll withdraw my
I think we need
motion
their
and-
advice to
withdraw
make
my
sure we
motion.
do it correctly.
Yeah, I do
Withdraw my
believe
motion,
we still
refer
have
to
to
legal.
receive it, but I know you did have a hearing, so I'm wondering if it's just been in compliance and the petition came after, but motion would be receive and refer to legal to receive a response back to the full council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Petitions. Petition for a pole and wire location, HGD, to locate the lines across from, and then it's 140 class, 2 poles between 60 and 18 Willow Street.
Suspend the rules to take 15 and 16 together.
Motion to take 15 and 16 together as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to grant the petition.
And the 16 is another one for Class 2 poles at the corner of Charles Street and Lowell Street.
Yeah, under discussion?
Motion is to approve. Under discussion, Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, so this is our guys. This is HG&E. So putting up poles. This is not Verizon that barely passed that last one. This is not Verizon. And may I just expand? Okay, on that issue, Mr. President, if I could just advise the body, I was advised by the law department, Mr. Bissett, as well as the director, I don't know what her title is, Ms. Cummings, that she would can I speak with you about the telephone poles? Yes, I replied. Still waiting for Ms. Cummings' call. It couldn't have been more plain that I said, yes, I'm available for a call. It said yes. And no call from Ms. Cummings. I want to recognize the cooperation of HG&E, because HG&E provides me a very comprehensive list of double poles, which I forwarded to Verizon, which was in addition to the list they provided, which was woefully out of date. So I'm waiting for Verizon to contact me relative to the matter of double poles. But this matter is, yes, it's in Ward 3, but who cares? It's for HG&E, and it's it's a valid request. So I recommend we grant it.
Counselor Reagan, do you have anything? Oh, okay. Motion is to receive and adopt the 15 and 16 poles at the 2 locations. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As opposed? President's report, I'll go quickly. on October 9th from 5:30 to 7 at the Holyoke Dean campus, which is Main Street. There's going to be a tale of 4 cities, an evening of advocacy and discussion around Chapter 70 funds, of which it'll be Holyoke, Springfield, Brockton, Worcester Public Schools, and a lot of other people coming in to address the Chapter 70 funds and the formula and how that works. Councilor McGivern, would you like to add to that, or?
If I could, real
Yep,
quick,
Councilor
Mr.
McGivern.
President, thank you, and then there's a copy on everybody's desk. I think if you just note that, besides Holyoke, Springfield, Brockton, and Worcester Public Schools, and a group of citizens are going to put this on and participate in it, there's an issue with the formula for Chapter 70s, and it's and it could have a very severe impact on our school budget this year and in future years. This is not the first time this has happened on the state level, and I think it's time to be activists to try to head this off and get our message to the state that gateway cities like Holyoke cannot survive the formula changes that the majority of legislatures propose when they're not worried about anything but their own communities. Second is this, Dr. Zreich is sent in the form of an invitation and asks as many city councilors to come as possible. There's another issue going on real quick, and it's related in terms of the budget, in terms of the formula, and that's our reimbursement for building schools. We're an 80% community because of our income ratio and because of the formula that dictates, again, Holyoke as a gateway community should qualify automatically for an 80% reimbursement. Unfortunately, what happens on an annual basis, the BSA takes a vote on construction costs and caps it. And right now, the formula that they're using this year, the cap would put us closer to 60%. Now, that in itself is not good news, but what really bothers me is because we're 80%, we don't qualify for incentives to raise up to 60%. Any other community that is not at 80% can get incentives to go above 60%. And that in itself is unfair and is not looking at gateway communities like Holyoke in a fair manner in terms of dealing with what we deal with in terms of the income levels that we have in the city. So we're going to try and work on both of these and get the state to change the formulas. In the past, they did not listen to the gateway communities. They just waited, lawsuits were filed, and eventually it was won out. But I don't want to see a year or two go by where we have to survive on less money than we need to take care of our public schools.
Anyway, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I just want to commend Councilor McGivern on his leadership on this. I was really stunned when I attended the finance meeting relative to what's proposed and to how it's to be paid for 2 new schools. I know there's going to be some pressure coming on us for other items, and that's in this agenda. It's going to get referred to finance. It's going to come back out soon for other studies relative to schools. I just kept to myself that night, and I took it all in, but that is going to $55 million. 60% reimbursement. It's just right now, it's got to be, it's got to be beyond shrug our shoulders, and this is what it is, Holyoke, and, that doesn't cut it. So I'm hopeful this will get something out of this meeting, fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens. But to go from 39 and change to $42 for commercial to $19.16 for residential, to go to about $21 for residential. Yeah, good luck getting that passed. So that's talk about a tough vote. You think tonight was a tough vote on Lynch School? Yeah, that's a tough vote. When you start, we're talking about cutting taxes, that is a hammer. That's a hammer on commercial and residential. As much as we want to help the school system, which we all do, because that's vital to the essence of who we are. As a public school graduate myself, that's who I am. But it's just, Mr. President, this has got to be looked at very carefully by this body. Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you. And I've been sitting on the selection committee for the construction management at risk on this, and they've done a beautiful job. The committee chose Fontaine Brothers, who built Holyoke High School and built Dean Tech. And talking with Whitney Anderson, when we talk about what we just went through with some of the other schools and what we're facing, what we went through with Lynch, what we're facing with Peck School also, it's great to know we've got some schools that were well built and will be viable for another 25 or 50 years in the future. These two new schools, I think, are vital for our kids, and there's other ways to get there besides this tax override. And I think it's very, very important that the entire council really try and get there and get their heads around this Chapter 70 thing and get behind it. It's complicated. Councilor McGivern really understands it a lot better than I do. I'm starting to get the drift of it, but this is huge for the city. It's huge for the future. It's huge for generations to come of kids, and we really, as a council, have to come together on this and look for all the possible ways and put as much pressure as possible on the state to help us get over this hurdle. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say two things. One is I met my good friend, my fellow councilor, Juan, down at the third annual Taste of South Holyoke, and I wanted to give props over here to my other colleague for organizing it. And I liked how you started a little bit later, but it went later, and it was a lot of fun, and I think we all had a great time. I saw nothing but smiles on everyone's faces. And I also want to remind people that Celebrate Holyoke is this weekend as well. So make sure you try to get down to Celebrate Holyoke. A lot of good people are volunteering down there. That's all I have for tonight.
All right, we're on a little off topic there that we were talking about October 9th, Tale of Four Cities. Just kidding, Jim. On this one,
Sorry, I fell asleep.
no, I'm just playing with you. So 5:30 to 7 down at Dean. That's when this meeting will take, and you have people coming from different parts of the state to help us argue our point about Chapter 70, changing that formula, and also trying to deal with the reimbursement formula. Also, October 7th is the Polish American Heritage Banquet. I do believe it's Carl Eager. We had a proclamation made for him. He's one of the recipients. That starts at 4 o'clock, dinner at 5. If you'd like to go, tickets are $35. Everyone has on their desks November 1st from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. the breakfast fundraiser for veterans. And that's at MGM in Springfield. October 25th is at the Delaney House. It's the William Dwight Award, and that's for Attorney Driscoll. I know we did have a proclamation made for that one, but just in case as a reminder. As Councilor Leahy pointed out, we do have Celebrate Holyoke starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll just make one point. On October 6th, which is Saturday from 12 to 5, if you have nothing better to do and it's going to be 60 degrees out and you want to dunk me in water, that will be from 12 to 5. We're still battling on the time frames. It's the mayor, Dr. Zreich, Dennis Burks, and myself. I think there's John Burnell. Anyone else who wants to volunteer, I'll be more happy to throw your name in the mix. But come down from 12 to 5. It's in recognition of the outstanding work that the kids did in the schools in the reading program. I contacted Dr. Zreich way back when and said, let's do something to kind of get the reading program going, and I'll volunteer throwing myself in the canal. And Dr. Zreich said, I'm with you. And then my wife, who has all the wisdom, said, you're a moron. You're not doing that, do something different, of which the dunk tank came about. So Saturday, 12 to 5, any one of those 4 or 5 people, if you want to join, it's going to be a lovely day, 60 degrees, and you can take your shots. Other than that, Councilor Roman had something, then Councilor LeBron Martinez and Councilor Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had 2 quick things. First is on Monday, yesterday actually, it was the Sunday night going into Monday. It was my 6th major fire that I've dealt with as a city councilor, 2729 Cabot Street. There was an apartment fire, damaged most of the building. Those tenants, we have 20 families who are displaced and are in hotels. But I just wanted to thank the Holyoke Fire Department, the Red Cross, VOC, Juan Sanchez, Carmen and Jerry from the association, Holyoke Public Schools, Doctors Wright, the school committee women, Irene, Mildred. It was a beautiful showing from Holyoke one more time, and it's a sad thing that we've become experts in this community with major fires. Everything from Holyoke Domino's Pizza, Providence Ministries, Capri Pizza stepping up, Seatown donating lunch. And so I'm just asking for the community, what the latest ask is that these families still have very limited access. If folks or individuals want to sign up to providing a dinner for 20 families, half of them are at the Red Roof Inn in West Springfield, half are at the Motel 6 here in Holyoke. We're looking for groups or organizations to just pick one night a week to provide 20 meals to 20 families. And we have everything from seniors to 6 youth who are in the Holyoke Public Schools or Head Start. We're not in need of clothing or anything like that at the moment, but just someone to sign up for dinner. They just have a microwave. Lorraine's in Providence provided them with canned goods for lunch, but we try to give them a hot meal. And I thank Dana from the Ethnic Studies program at Holyoke High School tonight who donated some pizzas for the families to go eat. So I just wanted to thank everyone as a community, everyone for chipping in, all the volunteers, and I want to thank Nueva and my staff for really just coming in at 4 or 5 in the morning when the police chief gave me a call. So I want to thank everyone for that, number one. Number two, on a positive note, next week, because it happens before our council comes back into session on the 16th, it's the closeout of Hispanic Heritage Month. And at Nueva, there's a few events. One is there's a musical performance coming from the New York Traveling Puerto Rican Theater Company. An off-Broadway professional cast is performing a show called Dancing on My Cockroach Killers. So if anyone's interested in coming to that, that's the 12th, 13th, and 14th. We actually create a pop-up black box theater right in the Mercado space. And so tickets are $25. Everyone's welcome from the public. It's a family-friendly show. It's fully bilingual, mostly in English with some Spanish flair. Friday and Saturday nights at 7, and Saturday and Sunday there is a 2 o'clock matinee. And we're closing out Hispanic Heritage Month on October 15th in Nueva. Martin Espada, who's a famous poet, world-renowned, he just got a $200,000 international award for his poetry. He's a professor at UMass, is donating a personal library to Nueva Esperanza, a reference library with 250 books of poetry, history of Puerto Rico, some famed poets that are his friends. We're doing a library kickoff. It's open to the public, free, with food and wine and hors d'oeuvres. He'll be there giving us doing some poetry readings. That's at Nueva from 6 to 8. I would invite you all to attend. And lastly, as a farce, I would make a motion to nominate Joe McGivern for the dunk booth.
Second.
Councilor
Is there a weight limit?
Yeah. Yes, I just want to announce that tomorrow there's going to be a reception, but actually a town hall meeting with the Commissioner Jeff Riley at Morgan School, starting at 6:30. Some of you probably got the email for the invite for a private event before the town hall. The reception, if you got an invitation, it's from 5:30 to 6:30, but the town hall is open from 6:30 to 8:30. So it's an opportunity to speak in regards to our education system. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bacon.
On a lighter note, I just want to let you know that I'll be presenting the proclamation that we all voted for hair changes for 40 years of continuous business, and I'll be doing that on October 11th at 6 o'clock if anybody's around. Dennis Honenberger will be coming out that evening. Thank you.
All right, so with that, on to reports of committee. 17A, the Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the city engineer provide recommendations as to whether no parking signs should be placed at the eastern end of West Glen Street where it connects to Northampton Street. Number of cars and parking on both sides is causing potential traffic. Recommend that the order was adopted.
Motion to pass the first reading, receive and pass the first reading.
Motion is to receive and pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we actually had Bob Parent come in to our meeting this time in the same fashion that Mike McManus had been giving us very detailed recommendations. He is staying in that plan, and it's wonderful to get this information and these recommendations this way. So he came in, he had reviewed the area, found that the request was consistent with a similar approach in the area, and so have recommended to add this into our ordinances.
Anyone else? Motion is to pass a first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion is that the passage be ordained. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the change.
Roman? Yes. Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you're approved 17A. 17B, Committee on Ordinances referred in order that DPW review the resident parking only on Pine Street between Appleton and Essex. Request from residents, recommended that the order be adopted.
Motion to receive and pass the
Second.
first reading.
Motion is to receive and pass the first reading under discussion. Counselor Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. President. We received a report from DPW that is consistent with other locations that we have, and that they would add it to recommend that it be added to the Code of Ordinances.
All right, no further discussion. The motion is passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Second.
reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion that the
Second.
passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the new ordinance.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Say Tallman or Sullivan?
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the order. 17C, the Committee on Ordinances referring to that the City Council create a temporary sign ordinance that regulates when such temporary signs can be placed in homeowners' yards, on commercial buildings, or otherwise in public view. Recommend it be adopted.
Motion to pass the first reading.
Second.
Motion is passed the first reading. Under discussion, Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We took this up in committee on more than one occasion. The issue is that our current sign ordinance does not meet the constitutional test, so we've been unable to enforce it. And so this process was to clean up our ordinance so that it can be enforceable. And I'll defer to the maker of the order for more details.
Counselor Bartley.
I'm not going to give any more details, thank you.
Okay.
Just very briefly, the law department really worked hard on this. The planning board really worked hard on it too. A lot of public hearings. I really appreciate their input as always. This is really just something that I think it's going to put Holyoke in, especially for those of us who get a little frustrated by the amazing amount of lawn signs that are everywhere. It basically sort of gets them out of our faces from December to March, the end of March. It puts us in line with the Gilbert v. Arizona decision that really changed the whole dynamic of temporary sign ordinances. Right now, our ordinances are unconstitutional. This makes our ordinances constitutional. There's no fees involved. There's no limiting of free speech. This is just about time, place, and manner, public safety, aesthetic appeal, and I think this is going to be a real model, frankly, for a lot of municipalities that are not in compliance. And I think this ordinance is going to be something that's going to be copied by a lot of other communities going forward. So I'm very, very proud of the work that the law department did, and I hope we can pass this tonight. Thank you.
Counselor Leahy.
I'll defer to
Counselor Anderson Burgos.
Yeah, I actually, there's some parts of the ordinance I agree with, but there's one in particular that I think it might be problematic, if you will. So when you're driving, the islands that we see, the separators, right, have your signs, everybody's signs.
Beautiful flowers, too.
Right, with beautiful flowers. So that, this ordinance is saying public view. That includes that. Not only that, there are some that are memorials, right, for the young woman and young man that were killed in Holyoke. So that includes that. So it becomes problematic because that's also in public view. That's my only take on it. Like, I don't mind. Like, I take my lawn signs off when you know, voting season's over. It's done. So I think that becomes a problem. This ordinance would then be a problem for that. That's all.
Would Councilor Bacon?
If I may, through the chair. The only thing that the ordinance requests of people who wish to keep a sign up for a prolonged period of time is that they register it. There is no cost involved, so it doesn't prohibit that the sign can be there. It's just that a process is followed. It wouldn't prohibit it.
No temporary sign may be placed in the right-of-way without obtaining a permit from Public Works. With regards to those signs, in essence, it's run through City Hall and DPW puts them up for us as well as the others in the middle. Would that help deal with the issue that you're bringing up?
I think so.
Okay. Because in essence, the flower barrels are run through the city and DPW has the permission, and they take them away at the end of the year, so it is a short time frame, which I think is trying to be complied with here.
Right, and then there's also another, I was stopping at, need I say it, Dunkin' Donuts, and they have temporary signs that go up, so that means that we're asking these businesses as well to come down and, you know, get a permit to, I don't know if they're trying to, I don't know, sell a new drink or whatever, you're asking them to do that as well. I think this is an ordinance that really needs to be looked at before we move on it, but that's strictly my opinion. And if anybody else likes to talk on that matter, please do so now.
Councilor Bacon.
I would just offer to the council that we adopt this ordinance. There's been a lot of work and detail that has gone into it. And if any unintended consequences do arise from it, as we have with others in the past, we could amend it if it was needed. I really think it's written in a manner that allows people to express themselves in the way that they want. Just on occasion, they may need to file something.
And I'll just make one clarification. I do not have a flower barrel because it was run over, and the remains of it are still sitting on North Cherry Street. Mine and the city clerk's. So I'm just pointing that out. Those barrels are gone. Joe's, yours is still there. It's cracked and it's got boxes in it. Mine's obliterated.
That same contractor for the city ran over mine, too. I'm just waiting for the acknowledgement, not an apology.
Well, mine got destroyed a couple years ago, and I had to pay somebody to remove it, and that barrel ended up in Brenna's backyard, behind your shed.
All right. On 17C, it's past the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Pass the second reading.
Second.
Is there a motion to pass second reading?
Motion to pass the second reading.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Second.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the new ordinance.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approved. 17D. 17E, the Committee on Ordinance was referred a special permit application for Hoyok Gardens LLC, 5 Appleton Street. Recommend that the permit be approved with the following conditions. One, that the owner of the building always pay commercial property tax rates to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for duration of the special permit. 2, that the business retain a minimum of 30% of Hoyok residents for non-security jobs. 3, that hiring preference be given to security personnel of the retired Hoyok police or two retired members of another police department now lives in the city of Holyoke. 4, there shall be no marijuana consumption on the site. 5, there shall be no deliveries or retail or medical marijuana on the site to individual homeowners, residents, or people. That the hours of operation 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday. And 7, that all 7 conditions as spelled out in July 17, 2018 communication from the Holyoke Water Works recommendation of water system improvement, 5 Appleton Street be implemented.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to receive and adopt the committee
Second.
report. Can I also note that there is, I think it's a typo under number 5?
Right,
It
so
should
motion
be no
is-
deliveries of recreational marijuana, I believe.
All right, so motion is to receive and pass a first reading, of which you're saying under number 5 to change medical.
Retail to recreational.
Retail to recreational.
Thank you.
On that change, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Under discussion. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. So at our last meeting, this was referred back to committee following the receipt of a late file with a number of concerns relative to the spokesperson for this project about a different property than the application is filed for. So because of concerns as to what, if any, bearing that would have on this special permit were raised, I asked that it be referred to legal so that they could inform the committee as to how we might properly proceed. So at our next meeting, which was last week, our legal attorney did give us a written finding relative to what our jurisdiction was relative to this special permit. And the legal advice to us was that on the one hand, it is outside of our jurisdiction to make a finding relative to the character or credibility or any of the sort of background investigation that would take place relative to this special permit, but rather that belonged in the jurisdiction of the state licensing board. So the other point is that we are simply making a recommendation to this body, and if the special permit is approved, it is for the use in the zone, in the particular location. It was further pointed out in subsequent sharing of information that the spokesman is not a principal of the business, and that, I believe, was further clarified also in the press. So the other concern was, are we treating one applicant different from the other applicants? So upon review of that communication and upon review of the recommendation that we had made originally to this body, the committee voted unanimously to send it back with the same conditions that we had recommended in the first place. Thank you.
Councilor Bartley.
Thank you. I want to thank the chair for her leadership in this. I just want to expand upon a couple of points. One is, and this is, I say it out loud to remind myself, but when we have public hearings, every chairman here has chaired a public hearing at one time or another. It's confusing area law, especially, for those of us that walk in here, we don't know what public hearings are until we figure it out, and then, ultimately we figure it out. But though when we close a public hearing, it's just important for chairpersons to know that, yes, we can still, this legal opinion says that, we can still accept input and we can receive input from department heads. So that's what this legal opinion says. And I think that's just important for chairpersons to realize that though a public hearing is closed, no, we can no longer hear from the public per se, but we can hear from department heads. And that's just a really important point of law to sort of remember. I think also that as the chair lady pointed out, that this legal opinion really talked about, we're not going into character of any applicants. We can't do that. But I think we can be, we're buttressed by the fact that the Cannabis Control Commission, has to do due diligence, has to do Cory checks. That's no joke. If anyone's gone through a Cory check, I mean, I delivered Meals on Wheels for years, and they, they check everything. So, as a volunteer, by the way, I wasn't paid. But we did it for years, and they have to go through your record, and so it's important that they do go through it, and so I think we can feel a lot of comfort in the fact that anybody in this business has to submit to a Cory, and I'm sure with this applicant they did. So I feel very comfortable with this applicant. I want to support this petition and this permit. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Lisi.
Through the chair, can I just ask Councilor Bartley to clarify one point? Are you saying that the applicant has a license already and has been vetted already by the Cannabis Control Commission? I didn't quite understand the last point that you were making.
Councilor?
Yes, may I? No, I didn't say that. I said that any applicant for a marijuana business has to subject itself to a Cory check. Well, where it stands, criminal records, whatever it is. I don't know what it stands for, but but beyond that, Mr. President, they have to get a license from the Department of Public Health. Then they also have to be approved by the Cannabis Control Commission for the product they're producing. So there's several layers of review and on this matter, but I didn't say that they've been approved by anybody. I'm just saying that that as part of the process, they need to be approved, and I hope that clarifies.
Yeah,
but
it does.
I'll take any follow-up questions.
Anyone else? So a motion is to pass the first reading. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Second.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the special permit for 5 Appleton Street. If you vote no, you're voting against.
Mr. President, this is just receive and adopt. I'm sorry. It's a special permit,
Oh.
not an ordinance.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Oh, okay. So motion is to receive and adopt. I do
It
apologize.
was too simple.
Joe caught it.
Joe's
Yeah,
going to
we're
have a point of
going
order.
on a roll here, Counselor.
Joe's
Did I
going
beat you to it,
Joe's going
Joe?
to flex his procedural chops. He wanted to do it.
Robert's
Joe wanted to
rules.
do it so bad.
Counselor, forgive me. You just go through 5 in a row. Doing it that way, it's habit.
It's habit.
So a motion is to receive and adopt.
Dan gave me some reading, I was catching up on it.
All right, so 17E, motion is to receive and adopt for the special permit for 5 Appleton Street.
Roman?
Oh, wait, hold on, Counselor?
Just
Lisi?
under discussion, I've been going back and forth about this. I voted in committee to move it forward. I missed the last committee meeting where the public hearing was closed, and so I feel like I still have some questions out there that haven't been answered, and so I'm just going to be voting no tonight.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. So, clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the special permit.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Nope.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
11 yeas, 1 nay.
With your vote, you approved the special permit for 5 Appleton Street, Hoyoke Garden LLC. 17F. Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that no parking be allowed from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., Monday to Friday on the west side of Maple Street from the fire hydrant cul-de-sac to the corner of St. Colby Drive. 3 no parking signs will be needed. Recommend that be adopted.
I just want to check with legal that, is legal form for ordinance on this one, Crystal?
Yes,
Thank
that's right
you.
here.
Motion to pass the first reading.
Motion is passed the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is, again, an effort to reduce congestion. It was filed by Councilor Tallman for safety concerns in that area, and DPW felt that that was reasonable and recommended that we add those signs.
Any further discussion? Counselor Tomlin?
Yes, I want to thank the committee for taking up, and I added Council Lebron Martinez on this order. It's for the area down by Meta De La Rosa School where they need some issues on the unloading of the children on the buses and then picking them up at the end of the day for parking reasons.
Now that Councilor Tomlin's retired, he's been evaluating school children and schools and hydrants.
I appreciate the work.
No further discussion. It's past the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Joe, we're going down the right path, right?
Doing good, Mr. President, doing good.
Go off.
Motion is passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion that the passage
Second.
be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the change.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
With your vote, you're approved. 17F. 17G, Committee on Ordinance would refer to signs be placed saying "Do not block driveway" on 37-39 Samoset, Samoset, from McNally Field Park, where the homeowners have driveways. Recommended that the committee be adopted recommendation of the city engineer, engineering notes, order to cover by ordinance. Signed off by 4 members.
A motion to receive and adopt the committee report?
Motion is to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Or no.
No, this is just
Just, all right, so
committee report.
motion is to receive and adopt under discussion, or?
Yes, I would just note that DPW did review this, and we already have in our code of ordinances a prohibition for parking in front of or within 5 feet of either edge or point of curb return of any driveway. And so because it exists in ordinance form already, there is no signage required, but if somebody is violating it, it is enforceable by the police department. So, at this time, the DPW was not recommending the additional signage.
So the motion is to receive and adopt, no further discussion. All those, Counselor LeBron
I
Martinez.
regret not being here. This has been an ongoing issue for so long, and I apologize I couldn't make to this meeting. But that is the issue. This is have created conflict with the times that they have to call the police. If you ever gone down to that area, everyone in the spring, from the spring all the way through the summer, they just take over these residents who have the duplexes there, their parking spaces, and they have to constantly be doing that. And that sometimes creates conflict with the individuals who are doing that. By them having to be calling the cops, if they see a sign that it states that you cannot park there, you'll be told, maybe people would abide by that, but they would not respect it once there's nothing there. So that's the issue.
So what would you like to do with this, Counselor, with this order? Are you saying receive and adopt and follow up with something else, or do you want to go back to
I
committee
guess
with
I
it?
would have to refile it in a better sense. I don't know. What would you say? I mean, this has been a concern, and I guess they brought it before even my time as an issue, and it was never addressed. So I'm just trying to do my.
Have you spoken with the engineer about what he
I
came up?
would. I would then have to now, seeing that it's been.
How about we do this? We receive, adopt this, we get the report from the engineer, and then we can go sit with the engineer and see what they recommend and
I'll do
file a
that.
new one.
I'll do that. Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
The motion is to receive and adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 17H, Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the city discontinue the PVDA bus stop number 0459. Recommended that be, order that be adopted.
A motion to receive and adopt the committee report?
Motion is to receive and adopt. Our discussion?
So actually, the committee recommended, and we thought we would have to do this as an ordinance change, except that it was noted by our attorney, Attorney Barnes, that there is no ordinance for this bus stop. So there is nothing to remove. Except the sign.
Okay. Easy enough.
Just point,
Counselor Bartley.
yeah, so I think if I may, Councilor McGivern, just use your name, not in vain, but in praise. This has been an ongoing issue. They just put up signs where they damn well feel like it. Because they feel like it, because they're PBTA. So we should just take them all down. Or we should at least get a laundry list of this is by ordinance. They're supposed to put up a sign. When I filed this order with Councilor Roman's Business Ward 2, I filed this order because seeing what's over there by Our Lady of Guadalupe, there's a dearth of there's no parking over there. So why have a bus stop, which is just steps from another bus stop, in between other bus stops? And so now come to find out, which we didn't know this last Tuesday in ordinance, but now we're finding out that there's no ordinance. And Councilman McGivern has said all the time, well, what are they doing? They go around with their trucks and they just pop up a sign. Because they've got the guys, they got the trucks, they got the gals to put them up or whatever, and they just do it. I mean, and we specifically sent this to PBTA with a copy to them. And what feedback did we get? How about none? Well, probably because they knew darn well they just did it on their own without any feedback. So I'm kind of hopeful that we can approve this and then send them a copy with a letter that says, please follow city law. Thank you.
Councilor Roman?
Yes, I want to thank my colleague for finding this and reaching out to me. And we've done a lot of work on Maple Street in front of Lady of Guadalupe. There was actually at 1.6 bus stops simultaneous before we started cutting and moving bus spaces down at the request of the residents at Falsetti Towers. But it was really also stopping the flow of traffic every time the PVTA bus had to stop constantly. And it was like literally one pole after another pole after another pole. And so when I heard that this wasn't by ordinance as well, I agree. I think that that's maybe another order we should file, is that we do, get a list of PVTA or reach out to them and say, hey, where are your bus stops in the city? And then we match that to the ordinances, because this isn't the only issue we've had in Ward 2 with regards to an excess number of bus stops and the amount of traffic stops and just accidents. It's just bad. So I thank my colleague for filing this. I think, and I would ask that you all support this because it is excessive. Thank you.
Just one question, if approved, who's taking down the sign?
We'll do it.
David.
Well, just
give me a ladder, Gladys.
Well, no, if we have DPW take it down, that's our time. Can we send a bill for that?
Woohoo, yep.
Also, if we do take it down, granted it's in legal sign, it's not pursuant to our ordinance, they won't have any recourse against us because it's not pursuant to ordinance, but I would like to send a bill for our work.
So moved.
So with that, motion is to receive and adopt.
And send a bill.
And send a bill.
Give them so many days to get it down.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 17I, the committee on ordinance was referred that the truck restrictions to be placed on Southampton Road 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., same as Homestead. This road is not intended for heavy truck traffic. Recommended that be complied with.
A motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion is to receive, adopt, that's complied with. Under discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I had filed this order based on constituent concerns, and a review was taken, but what we learned is that there are certain criteria around this. We were aware that you have to have the alternate route, but there are other criteria that also come into play. One of them is that the heavy traffic has to reflect at least 5 to 8% of the total vehicle traffic. The DPW did not find that that was usually the case at this time. They did not feel that would be the case. The other issue that came to play is that approval from adjacent communities that have roads that would be potentially impacted is also required, which was something I didn't know. And in the case of Southampton Road, it would include at least East Hampton, if not also Southampton. So for those reasons, it is not, this idea is not able to be pursued at this time. We did have a good discussion about perhaps talking with East Hampton about trying to reduce the frequency with which they close 141, which is what causes the traffic to be often diverted in the winter. So there will be some ongoing coordination in that regard, and I appreciate their feedback.
Anyone else? Motion is that it's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Finance, 18A. Committee on Finance has referred an order that there hereby be appropriated from senior election clerk, $29,219.10 to assistant registrar of voters, $29,219.10. Recommended that be adopted.
Make a motion to receive, pass the first reading.
Motion is
Second.
received, pass first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. Real quick, Mr. President, our city clerk tells us that this is due to a promotion within the department itself, and we congratulate our new employee who has moved up to the Assistant Register of Voters. The position where the money is coming from, if I'm correct, will not be backfilled. Committee recommends that the transfer be adopted.
There's no further discussion. Motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're
Bless you.
voting for the transfer.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the transfer. Public Safety Committee, there weren't any public service. 20A, Committee on Public Service referred review of the mayoral appointment for licensing board for an Anthony Luciano.
Yes, I make a motion to approve and confirm, or receive and confirm.
Second.
It does say waiting disposition, but that's because you took it up and now it's here, so the motion is to approve. And that's under discussion. Counselor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you. Last night, we had a very good meeting, and everybody except for one person came down. This is kind of out of... all right, so Anthony, he has a very good background in IT. He's lived in Holyoke for about 8.5 years. This is going to be a report to the license board. He was speaking about safety and making sure the quality of life is what his goal is. He's going to be working with many other people. He will certainly listen to both sides when making a decision. Some questions were brought up in regards to, one-day liquor licenses, and he had some thoughts behind that. I think it's a good pick by the mayor, and I'll turn it over to my Councilor McGivern if he wants to add anything.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Joe says second.
Second.
Or ditto. So 20A, if there's no further discussion, a motion is to approve for licensing board. And how long is it again, the term?
I don't have the sheet in front of me, but I believe it is,
But just so,
I think it's 3 years.
term?
Isn't it usually?
License is 3, yeah.
3-year term.
Yep.
Okay, just so it's on the record.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
President, 20B remains in committee with our assistant being on vacation. It should have been taken off the agenda.
Yeah, there are not enough signatures, I'm gonna point that out, so. 20B.
She was not present.
We'll skip over. It gets referred back to committee without enough signatures. 20C, Committee on Public Service referred review for Historic Commission, which is Christopher Gauthier. And that is also awaiting disposition, so this would be to approve.
Yes, he came down as well and he gave his background. He very excellent presentation. He owns an answering service in Springfield. He's been in Holyoke. He's been going to the meetings already for the last several years, to which he has a 100% attendance record on that. So he knows what he's getting into because he's been going to the meetings. He has a lot of positive information regarding historical buildings, but he also realizes that you can't save every building. He certainly wants the best for Holyoke.
All right, Councilor McGivern.
The only thing I would add to Councilor Leahy is that he is a business owner in the city of Chicopee, and he does have a keen sense that, protecting our architectural and our historical buildings is very important, but I think he has an understanding. You have to weigh everything one at a time and make sure that there's good growth, along with the protection of what we are and what we have.
No further discussion. Motion is that we approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 20D, Committee on Public Service referred from the mayor, associate member of the Board of Appeals, Mr. Partey.
Yes, receive and confirm.
Motion is to receive and confirm. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, Mr. Partey came down. He saw an advertisement, I believe, on Facebook under Josh Knox's page or the Hello Oil page or one of those pages. And he applied, and the mayor appointed him as an associate member to the zoning board. He is a person that's eager to, since that I got it, he's very eager to volunteer and help out, and that's where the city needs him, and he's looking forward to doing it. He too gave an excellent presentation, and his resume is attached. He has a good background. He develops computer software for credit unions. He had an office for a long time down in Open Square. I think he's going to be a great addition to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Councilor McGivern, ditto.
Just to add, not in the form of a question, but I just asked him, as I do all candidates for the Board of Appeals, it's kind of an unsung board that deals with variances for dimensional controls, very specific. And the one thing I asked him to remember is, in order to grant a variance under state statute, it is extremely important that a hardship must be proven. And that also that they, you don't let the Board of Appeals start doing our job in other areas, which not recently, but over the years, sometimes the Board of Appeals feel they can do more things than the City Council is supposed to be doing. But he gave some great answers, as Jimmy pointed out, and I think he's a good appointment by the mayor.
No further discussion. Confirm the appointment. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 21, Development of Government Relations, nothing. Charter and Rules, nothing. Joint Committee on Schools and City Council, nothing. So motions, orders, and resolutions. 24, Bartley, the City of Holyoke install appropriate signage and school zone warning lights near the following schools on Northampton Street: Center School, Metcalf School, Blessed Sacrament, referred to ordinance, finance, DPW, and mayor.
Yeah, motion to receive and refer, and I just want to make a friendly amendment that we add the Holyoke School Department.
So amend, add Holyoke School
Department. Yeah, school committee, however you want to do it.
So 57
Dr. Reich.
Suffolk Street.
Yeah, Dr. Reich. Yeah.
So
send it
Holyoke
to
School
Suffolk Street.
Department.
Yeah, just under discussion.
And so motion is to receive and refer to where?
Well, to ordinance, because
Ordinance,
we may have to have a school zone, and then to finance, because there may be an appropriation request relative to warning lights. The Department of Public Works, because they'd have to put up the stuff, and then the mayor, because he appropriates, and then the school department, because this is really all about school department related. This is basically a constituent request.
Can I add a friendly amendment?
Sure.
And don't throw anything at me.
No.
Because I filed this, not this order, but I filed it for Ian White, Jefferson.
Yeah.
Coming Jefferson towards the school, blinking lights because of the speeding. Could I add Jefferson on there toward Ian White, or just put Ian White?
Yep, perfect.
So a motion is to add an Ian White after Blessed Sacrament School on
Second.
Jefferson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
Right, so I've had actually several constituent requests, and I appreciate their input. As Councilor Lisi pointed out earlier, it's really important that we hear from constituents, and so I think all of us make ourselves available to the extent we can. And I've already had a conversation with Dr. Reich about this, so I don't, just to the chairs of the various committees, I mean, I really think we need some input from the mayor and Public Works, but I look forward to these being taken up and discussed in committee.
So, to ordinance. With a
Yeah,
copy
ordinance
to all
and to finance, because they're really kind of hand in glove.
Send a copy to finance after ordinance? Yeah,
Yes, please.
That's how we do it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 25
Is
is going on.
That's a duplicate, so
26.
give a leave to withdraw.
24. 25 is leave to withdraw?
Second.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
it
same
says,
thing.
yeah. It's got- 25 is leave to withdraw. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 26 from Bartley and Bresnahan. The city council amended its ordinance to create a committee to study the cost and benefits involving the city of Holyoke establishing its own animal control facility.
Point of order, Mr. President, do we need an ordinance to make a committee?
Well,
I mean,
let me just, if I can.
technically, we could set up an ad hoc committee, that's within our rules. But Counselor Bartley, it's your order, we'll see where you're going with it.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, refer to ordinance, then I'll just get under discussion.
Okay, so motion
Second.
is to receive and refer to
That's
ordinance.
just because I hear what the chair lady said about that. I've seen stuff not go into ordinance here and then discarded. So what I'm hopeful is that we can just have a friendly discussion in ordinance as to where we're going with this, and then try to set up the parameters, whether we do it through an ordinance or we do it through, if the body, an ordinance committee feels we can do it through an ad hoc committee, yeah, good to go. But I just want to get the conversation started.
Okay, so a motion, Counselor Roman,
No, I just would like to be, with the maker's permission, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
add on Counselor Roman.
Yes, please.
So to ordinance, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Can we take, suspend and take, and suspend the rules, take 27, 28, 29 as a package, sent to DGR, and abbreviated reading? 'Cause-
Motion is to take as a package 27, 28, 29 as a package and refer to ordinance, you said?
Mr.
Oh,
President.
I'm sorry, to DGR.
DGNR. DGNR. Abbreviated reading, 27, order that, in accordance with Mass General Law 30B, the city Holyoke Code of Ordinance Procurement, the city council declare parcel 229 Beach Street, and then 28 is with regards to Chapin Street, 47, and then 29 is 285 Main Street, so all three being surplus. So as a package, all those in favor?
Mr. President,
All
Mr.
opposed?
President.
Yeah, Councilor Roman.
Sorry, just a point of order. I have to abstain from item 29. I didn't get a chance today. I was a little bit busy before the agenda came up, but it's a conflict of interest for me, item 29.
It's just going to committee for now, so.
But
It will
I
have
just-
abstained from the
I
package.
just questioned with the law department. They recommended it from the beginning.
No, that's right, it's going to committee, so Councilor Roman will abstain, and we're just referring all three to committee.
That's right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 30, from Councilor Bresnahan. That the law department give a legal opinion as to whether or not panhandlers can be prevented from standing on the islands in the middle of traffic due to safety issues.
Mr. President, can we just amend it and add within 30 days?
Second.
So 30 is to send a legal with a response in 30 days.
And a copy to public safety?
And a
please.
copy. Do you want to go to public safety and then have the info sent there?
I'd rather not. I
No,
won't
okay.
take up their time if we can't do it.
All right, so motion is to receive to legal, copy to public safety, response in 30 days. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 31, we have done. 32 from Councilor Lisi and Anderson Burgos, LeBron Martinez, and Valentin, that the city council adopt a resolution in support of nuclear disarmament and the prevention of war. See attached document, full text.
Mr. President, can I be added as a co-sponsor to that, please?
And add on Councilor Roman.
I think,
Councilor Lisi?
thank you. I would like to make the motion to receive and adopt, but I know that it's been the pattern that we just send it to committee first, so I'm going to say let's receive and send to public service.
Public service motion is to send to public service. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 33.
Oh, God.
33 and 34 is a package.
Read the whole
33 and
thing.
34 is a package. All those in favor?
Got it in the mail.
All those opposed? I will
Whole
read every line,
English and Spanish.
English and Spanish.
Right.
Oh, my God.
Thanks.
We received it in the mail.
All right, so 33 and 34 are with regards to the state election, which is November 6, 2018. The polls will open at 7 a.m. and remain open till 8 p.m. It gives all the polling locations. 34, and it goes into English and Spanish, and the ballot questions. So,
Do the Spanish part, don't forget that.
I was told abbreviated reading. I did that. I'm just going by the rules now. But just make a quick look, make sure all the polling locations are correct.
Oh, Mr. President?
I know they are, but
Mr.
give me a second.
President?
Yeah, Councilor Bartley.
It's under discussion.
Yep.
One is, maybe Councilor McGivern can answer this. We have to wait until after the next census to rearrange the wards and precincts, correct? Okay. Census 2020, okay, so wards and precincts will be for the city council elected in 2021. Whoever's elected in 2021 will deal with the, what do you call it, the redistricting, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, that's one. And second of all, I know I filed an order relative to having a polling location be at the Taj Mahal, also known as the Senior Center. So I am just amazed that we haven't brought that up at some point. I don't know where that order
No,
is.
I'll answer for you, if you want me to.
Sure.
But once it was done, we filed an order because we were having trouble in Ward 6, because we lost the Lutheran Church. Therefore, the thought was, brand-new facility, handicap accessible, and we used to go to the old Dean and vote there.
Right there.
Well, we filed that order, and then the Secretary of State called us and said, how dare you? Because it's not Ward 6. In order to have a polling place, it must be abutting to 6A and 6B. Therefore, you only abut, I think it was 6A. So therefore, you're out. Cannot go there. That came from the Secretary of State.
Well, man.
Now, if you want to do a different ward, you got to make sure it abuts to A and B to the area. That was their ruling. So, to you.
So it had to abut both precincts? I don't see how that's,
That came from the Secretary of State.
well, I don't see,
Because there's only one.
then we're gonna have to, we can't realign our maps until after the, redistrict the maps until after the census. So I guess it's just something but it's just a very, dynamic public building, and, I mean, why can't we, I don't know, whatever.
I'm not even sure if they want it there. Wasn't there talk about them not wanting it?
Wait a minute.
we'll
Well,
get
they
that
wanted
later.
$8.7 million to build it, so they can.
All right, let's not lose focus. 33 and 34, a motion is to receive and adopt. I do believe that's what we're looking for.
Want it. They can sell 50-cent copies, more of them that day.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 35. Let's get 35.
There we go.
35.
Steve, adopt, refer, DPW.
DPW remove and replace the berm, so motion is to receive, adopt, and send to DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 36 from Councilor McGee and Harrison Burgos, that the DPW install
Second.
a no exit sign. Motion would be to receive, adopt. It's the sign was there, it's fell off or was stolen or.
Oh, dear.
So replace it. All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Make a motion to take 38 and 39 together to pass their first reading.
Second.
Motion is take 38 and 39 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 38, that $1,969 from firefighters to injured on duty, same amount. 39 is $8,616.77 from patrolman to injured on duty, same amount. Motion would be to receive, adopt, and pass a first reading. Under discussion, Councilor.
I think it goes without saying, but we're just transferring money from one line item to the other to do the same thing for people who were temporarily or more long-term on injured on duty. I believe, Mr. President, I don't see the part that tells us how many at this time.
For the first one, 38, it's 1. For 39, 4.
Thank you.
The motion is to receive, adopt, pass first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
Roman? Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the transfer.
President, make a motion to suspend the rules that we take items 40 through 49 as a package. After an abbreviated reading, refer them to the Committee on Finance.
Second.
Motion is to take 40 to 49.
I'll second
Ag as a
that.
package.
but
All
I-
those in favor?
I'd like to abstain on 40.
That's all right. They're only getting to committee, so you can abstain and we'll send to committee. That's all.
Okay.
So 40 is electrical inspector, 4,000 to inspections. 41 is 11,000 from firefighters to several different spots. 42 is $14,369 from firefighters to lieutenants. 43 is alarm officers, $1,097.46 to two different areas. 44, that the city council adopt section 63, 64, 65 of chapter 133. 45 is that the city of Holyoke appropriate $390,000. This would be for the two middle schools, the design. 46, $5,633.52 for unencumbered bills in 2018. 47, amend Chapter 2 revised code ordinance. The city of Holyoke, Virginia, the city council has the following city auditor. Something to do with the auditor and the ordinance.
That's a revolving fund, Mr. President.
Okay.
I agreed to do it under my name. However, I wanted to have a discussion on it before we go forward. I think, I told him I'd probably be speaking in opposition, but in fairness, I think we should have a discussion on it. I think finance can handle the original discussion. If there's a consensus to go forward, it needs an ordinance, we'll refer it to ordinance.
It's a new revolving fund. That's 47, 48, chapter 44, section 53. It's a grant, and then 49 is another grant. So 40 to 49, motion is referred to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 50. City council and the mayor amend the city ordinance to create a commission whose purpose is to consider all aspects of the Whiting Street Reservoir. From Sullivan and Bartley, you would like what to do with that?
Ordinance, please.
Motion is to send to ordinance.
Copy,
All those in
copy of the
favor?
mayor, water,
All right, so
Works
motion is to ordinance with a copy to mayor
water department
Water.
and conservation.
and conservation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Late file A,
No emergencies, make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
I haven't seen the late files. This is the receivership update for certain parcels.
Table.
Motioner.
Motion to
Table.
send to
Table.
next
Yep.
agenda, next meeting. B is the receivership case study for 193 Sycamore Street. Send to
Table.
next meeting. C from that Counselor McGivern. 12,528.
What?
From head clerk, assistant clerk to all different library assistant, different parcels. So
Table.
motion would say to next
Next
agenda.
agenda.
It's a financial transfer. Once again, Counselor McGivern. Late file D, firefighter, $7,761 to deputy chief, so
Next.
transfer, so that'd be next meeting. E is appointment of the Holyoke Economic Development, so HEDIC is appointing Mark Cutting to the board.
Next meeting.
Next
Next
meeting.
meeting.
And that is it.
Motion adjourned.
Motion be to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed?